I saw my son move my name card at 12:17 in the afternoon. I know the time because the big round clock over the lodge kitchen was 5 minutes slow, and Adrian had complained about it twice. My card had been at the center table between Aunt June and Adrian. He lifted it with 2 fingers, careful not to bend the little gold bell glued in the corner, and carried it across the room. He passed the tables marked Bell Family, and Extended Family. Then he set my name beneath a sign near the swinging service doors, Friends of the Family. He straightened the card as if neatness might make it less cruel. Then he returned to the center table and placed Marlene's card where mine had been. Raymond's second wife. My replacement at a table I had spent 32 years arranging. Adrian didn't know I was standing behind the folding partition with a roll of tape around my wrist. He didn't see me watch him step back and study the room. He looked satisfied, even relieved. That was the part I couldn't understand, not why Marlene had been given my chair. Chairs are just chairs. I wanted to know what problem my son believed he had solved by putting his mother outside the family. 4 hours earlier, I had been elbow deep in peaches. At 6:10 that morning, my kitchen looked like a bakery had lost a bar fight. Flour dusted the counter. Brown sugar was stuck to the bottom of one slipper. 3 peach cobblers sat cooling on wire racks while a 4th bubbled in the oven, sending syrup over the edge of the pan despite my putting a baking sheet underneath it. My phone buzzed beside the butter dish. Adrian? Did you remember the extension cords? I looked at the blue plastic tub by the back door. It contained 2 extension cords, painter's tape, 3 power strips, a first aid kit, spare serving spoons, and a package of black markers because Adrian had used the phrase, "We'll figure it out when we get there one time too many." I typed, yes. 3 dots appeared immediately. And the easels? Yes. Tablecloth clips? In the side pocket. His reply was a thumbs up. No good morning. No thank you. Just the royal thumb. I sent back a peach emoji because I knew he hated emojis that required interpretation. He called. What does that mean? It means the peaches are staging a rebellion. Mom, I'm serious. So are they. There was noise behind him, something metallic dropping, then a man saying, "That ain't gonna fit." Adrian exhaled into the phone. The rental company brought 8-foot tables instead of 6-foot tables. Turn the center 2 the other direction. They won't line up. They don't have to line up. This is a family reunion, not a military parade. A pause. Okay, he said. That might work. Of course it might work. I had been setting up Bell reunions since Adrian was old enough to believe the coolers filled themselves. Did you sleep? I asked. Enough. That means no. Mom. What? Can you please get here by 8:30? I looked at the oven clock. The program doesn't start until 1. People will show up early. Bell people show up early to inspect and late to help. That got half a laugh out of him. I held on to it longer than I should have. 8:30, he repeated. I'll be there. When the call ended, I stood in the middle of my messy kitchen and felt ridiculously proud. Adrian had wanted to take over the reunion this year. He had said it was time someone from his generation carried it forward, though at 42, he was beginning to stretch the word generation like an old elastic band. For years, the reunion had belonged to June and me. June handled money and invitations. I handled everything people remembered afterward. Food assignments, seating, name cards, the memorial display, the emergency coffee when the rented urn refused to heat. June said I could make 2 relatives who had not spoken in 10 years sit 6 feet apart and still believe the distance was their own idea. But her hands had gotten unreliable, and long days wore her down. When Adrian volunteered, she cried. I nearly did too. He had been distant since his father and I divorced, not cruel exactly, just careful in a way he had never been before. Every conversation seemed to have edges he was trying not to touch. When Raymond remarried, Adrian became even more determined that we all behave like sophisticated adults in a furniture commercial. No shouting, no bitterness, no inconvenient history. Adrian called it moving forward. I called it talking about the weather until somebody died. Still, the reunion had given us something easy to share. He called me for advice. He came by twice to work on the family tree. One Sunday, he sat at my kitchen table for 3 hours lettering signs while I corrected his spelling of people he had known his entire life. "You put one L in Darnell," I told him. "Uncle Darnell has too many letters already. You also put an E on the end of Jean. Maybe Aunt Jean would like an upgrade." I had laughed so hard I snorted coffee. For a minute, he had looked like the young man who used to walk into my house without knocking and open the refrigerator before he said hello. That was worth 4 cobblers and a tub of extension cords. At 8:27, I pulled into Willow Point Lodge with my back seat packed to the windows. The lodge sat beside a narrow lake that looked prettier from a distance. Up close, the shore was mud, goose feathers, and cigarette butts left by fishermen. But the building had a wide porch, working air conditioning, and enough bathrooms to prevent the annual argument over who had been in there too long. Adrian came through the front doors carrying a clipboard. He wore tan slacks and a pale blue shirt already dark at the collar. My son had inherited Raymond's height and my tendency to look personally offended by humidity. "You're late," he said. I looked at the dashboard. "It is 8:28. You said 8:30. Then I'm early. I texted 8:15. You text too much. The important information gets buried." He opened my back door and stared at the cargo. "How did you fit all this in here?" "Years of putting your father's luggage in the trunk." That sounded hostile. It was geometry. Another half laugh. He kissed my cheek, grabbed the tub, and called over his shoulder. "Dad should be here around 11:30. There it was, not even 5 minutes through the door. "Good morning to Raymond, too," I said. "I'm just letting you know. You have now let me know. And Marlene's coming." I assumed she was. Her name is on the seating chart. He stopped walking. Only for a second. If I had not spent 9 months carrying him and 42 years watching him pretend he was fine, I might have missed it. "Right," he said. "I just don't want anything to feel awkward." "Then don't keep announcing that it might." He gave me a look over the tub. "Can we have one day where every sentence doesn't have a second meaning? Mine only had one. That's not true, and we both know it." Before I could answer, the front door opened and June called. "If you two are starting early, wait until I get my hearing aids turned up." She stood in the lobby wearing a yellow linen dress and white sneakers, one hand braced on her cane, silver hair swept into a style she would claim took no effort. June had been Raymond's oldest sister before she became my friend. Some relationships came through marriage and then refused to leave with it. I hugged her carefully. She smelled like face powder and peppermint. "You look beautiful," I told her. "You look sweaty. I brought 4 cobblers. You look beautiful, too." Adrian shook his head and carried the tub toward the hall. June watched him go. "He's been here since 6. That explains the personality. He wants everything perfect. He got that from his father. Raymond once hung a ceiling fan upside down. He was perfectly confident about it." June laughed, but her eyes stayed on me. "You all right about today?" "Why wouldn't I be?" "Because my brother is bringing his wife to a room full of people who remember when he brought you." I reached down and straightened the strap on her shoe, though there was nothing wrong with it. "Marlene didn't divorce me," I said. "No, but she gets nervous around you. I make a lot of people nervous. It saves time." June touched my shoulder. "Lorraine, I'm fine." She let the lie pass because she loved me. Inside the main hall, the tables were covered in cream-colored cloths, with small glass jars holding cedar branches and white grocery store carnations. Adrian had worried the flowers looked cheap. I told him they were cheap, which was why we could afford 24 jars of them. The center table ran beneath a banner that read, "58 years of Bell family togetherness." Adrian had lettered it himself. The word togetherness dipped lower on one side, like even the banner had doubts. On the far wall, 2 easels waited for the family tree and memorial board. I spent the next hour taping photographs, writing dates, and moving a picture of Cousin Calvin because June objected to having him beside the aunt whose silverware he once stole. "She's dead," I reminded her. She still wouldn't like it. We moved Calvin. Relatives began arriving before 10:30, proving both Adrian's prediction and mine. They came early enough to inspect, but not early enough to lift anything. Cousin Darnell walked in, carrying one bag of dinner rolls, and immediately asked if the coffee was ready. His sister, Pauline, brought a bowl of potato salad covered so tightly in foil it looked classified. Every few minutes someone hugged me and said, "Lorraine, what would we do without you?" Nobody waited for an answer. Adrian moved through the room with his clipboard, checking off names and directing people toward jobs they quietly escaped. He was good at greeting, better than I expected. He remembered to ask Pauline about her new apartment. He found a sturdy chair for June without making her feel managed. When the microphone squealed, he fixed it instead of looking for me. I caught myself smiling at him. At 11:15, before most people arrived, I checked the seating cards. Mine sat at the center table beside June's, exactly where it had been on the chart. On my other side was Adrian. Across from us were two of Raymond's brothers and their spouses. Raymond and Marlene were 3 seats down. Not intimate, not hostile, sensible. I pressed my fingertip against the little gold bell on my card. I had glued 76 of those things myself while watching old game shows. Then Raymond arrived 20 minutes early. He entered carrying a bakery box with Marlene beside him in a dark green dress. Raymond looked older than he had at Christmas. Not weaker exactly. Softer around the jaw, grayer at the temples. Marriage had once made his face familiar to me in all its changes. Divorce had turned each new wrinkle into information I was no longer entitled to. Marlene saw me first. "Lorraine," she said brightly. "Marlene." She held out both hands, and I let her take mine. We stood there smiling like candidates at the end of a debate. "I hope pound cake was all right," she said. "Raymond told me not to bring cobbler. Raymond has survived long enough to learn one thing." He leaned in and kissed my cheek before either of us decided whether that was appropriate. "Place looks good," he said. Adrian did it. Raymond looked across the room at our son, and pride warmed his whole face. Adrian saw it, that mattered. I could tell by the way he straightened. Marlene asked where they should put the cake. Raymond asked about June. Adrian came over, shook his father's hand, then hugged him, an awkward combination that made Darnell snort into his coffee. For several minutes, everything was manageable. Then I went behind the folding partition to find more tape for the memorial board. Through the narrow gap, I saw Adrian approach the center table. He looked toward Raymond and Marlene, then toward the entrance. He picked up my card. I watched him carry my name across the room. When he finished, I waited until he stepped into the hallway beside the kitchen. Then I followed. "Adrian?" He turned too fast. I held up the loose end of tape still circling my wrist. "Has there been a mistake with the seating?" His face changed. Not surprise. Preparation. "Mom," I was going to explain. "Explain now." He glanced toward the hall before lowering his voice. "Dad's uncomfortable having you at the family table with Marlene. And I'm trying to keep the day peaceful." I looked through the doorway at my name beneath friends of the family. So Marlene couldn't sit somewhere else? His jaw tightened. "She's Dad's wife," he said. "You're not technically a Belle anymore." For a second, the hallway seemed to narrow around us. Not technically a Belle. I looked at Adrian's face, waiting for the smallest sign that he had heard himself. He had my eyes. That had always pleased me, even when he was being difficult. Now it felt like an insult from a mirror. "What am I technically?" I asked. His forehead creased. "That's not what I mean. You've got a sign out there that answers the question." "Mom, please." "Please what? Don't do this here." I glanced around the empty hallway. A stack of metal chairs leaned against one wall. On the other, someone had taped a laminated notice, reminding guests not to throw grease into the sinks. "I'm not doing anything," I said. "I'm asking why my name moved across the room." He rubbed the back of his neck. "Dad didn't want Marlene to feel like she was sitting in your place. She is sitting in my place." You know what I mean. I know what you keep saying you don't mean. The kitchen door swung open behind him, and a woman from the catering staff backed through carrying a tray of ice. We stepped aside. She looked from Adrian to me, read enough of the air to become deeply interested in the ice, and hurried into the hall. Adrian waited until the door shut. I'm trying to respect Dad's marriage. By disrespecting his first one, it's over. Yes, Adrian, I was present. His eyes flicked toward the main room again. You've been divorced 6 years. Marlene is his wife now, and she deserves to be recognized as part of the family. I did not ask you to put her in the parking lot. That's how this would feel to her. But it doesn't matter how it feels to me. I didn't say that. You moved me to a table by the kitchen without saying anything. It's not by the kitchen. The service doors banged open, and Cousin Darnell came through carrying an empty coffee cup. He stopped when he saw us. Am I interrupting something? No, Adrian and I said together. Darnell's eyebrows climbed. All right then. The coffee's on the other side, I told him. I know. I'm looking for sugar. You're holding 3 packets. He looked down at his own hand. So I am. Darnell backed out of the hallway without turning around. Adrian leaned closer. People are starting to notice. They've noticed you moved the card. They're noticing us standing here. Then go welcome them. Mom, what do you want me to say? That I understand? I understand perfectly. Your father might be uncomfortable. Marlene might be uncomfortable. And you might be uncomfortable. So you chose the person who could be expected to swallow it. His face hardened, which was easier for him than letting it break. It's one meal. That works both ways. You've said for years that the Bells still feel like family. They do. Then why does the label on a table matter so much? I stared at him. He heard it that time. His mouth opened, but no words came. From inside the hall, June called his name. Her microphone was on, so it rolled through the room in a burst of static. Adrian Bell, this thing is making a noise like a dying bird. Several people laughed. He closed his eyes. I have to deal with that. I'm sure you do. Can we talk about this later? You've already made the decision. That doesn't mean we can't talk. No, it means you didn't need to talk until I saw it. He took a breath through his nose. Please don't make today about you. There were sentences that hurt because they were cruel, and sentences that hurt because they revealed the arrangement you had been living inside without noticing. That one did both. I removed the roll of tape from my wrist and pressed it into his palm. Go fix June's microphone, I said. He caught my hand before I turned away. Are you going to cause a scene? I looked down at his fingers around mine. He released me. No, I said. I would hate for the family to be uncomfortable. When I walked back into the hall, the room had filled. Raymond was beside the memorial board with June, pointing at a photograph of himself with hair down to his shoulders. Pauline was peeling back the foil on her potato salad. Marlene stood near the center table, speaking to one of Raymond's brothers, though her eyes found me almost immediately. Then she looked at the card beside June, her own name. She glanced toward the table near the service doors and saw mine. The color changed in her face. Not much, but enough. Adrian hurried past me with the microphone cable. I've got it, Aunt June. June tapped the microphone twice. The speakers responded with 2 hard thumps. You haven't got it yet, she told him. I went to the serving tables and began straightening utensils that did not need straightening. A plastic fork had fallen into the spoon tray. I moved it back. Then I shifted the napkins 1/2 inch to the left. Marlene came up beside me. Lorraine, if you're looking for the pound cake, Darnell has already opened it. I'm not. Then you'd better hurry. He cuts cake like he's settling a grudge. She did not smile. I didn't ask Adrian to do that. I kept my attention on the napkins. Ask him to do what? Her silence confirmed that she understood the ugliness clearly enough to avoid naming it. Raymond told Adrian he was worried about today, she said. Raymond worries when he can't control the temperature. He didn't tell him to move you. Then I suppose Adrian was being thoughtful. Lorraine, I don't want your seat. I looked at her. Apparently, it isn't mine. Her mouth tightened. Marlene had never been rude to me. That almost made her harder to resent. If she had shown up in a red dress and called me bitter, I could have enjoyed myself. Instead, she sent birthday cards, remembered that June liked peppermint, and always looked vaguely guilty when we occupied the same room. Sit where your card is, I told her. You could move it back and turn this into two women fighting over a chair while the men discuss how emotional we are? That did make her smile, though she tried to stop it. I hate that you're funny, she said. I have other qualities you can hate, I'm sure. Raymond called her name from across the room. She glanced at him, then back at me. We could switch. No. Why? Because Adrian moved it. Adrian can live with it. She studied my face for a moment. Are you leaving? Not yet. I picked up the basket of plastic forks and carried it to the food line. The program began 20 minutes late. That counted as early for us. Adrian welcomed everyone and thanked the planning committee, which apparently consisted of him and the clipboard. Then he thanked June for building the reunion tradition. June turned her head slowly toward me, but I focused on opening a packet of salad dressing. I did not need public credit. I had told myself that for years, and it had mostly been true. Still, there was something startling about hearing 32 years disappear without even making a sound. We lined up for food by table. Adrian called the center table first. June remained seated. "Come on, Aunt June," he said into the microphone. "I'm waiting for Lorraine." People turned. I wish they wouldn't. "I'll help you," Adrian said. June planted both hands on the top of her cane. "I didn't say I needed help. I said I'm waiting for Lorraine." I crossed the room before she could turn it into a constitutional crisis. "You're supposed to be first," I whispered. "So were you." June. I can still read. Her eyes moved toward the Friends of the Family sign. There was no softness in them now. "Not today," I said. "Then when? Not while Pauline's holding a serving spoon like a weapon." June looked over. Pauline was indeed gripping the spoon, though that was probably because Darnell had cut the food line. "I want to say something," June whispered. "I know. I can make it sound accidental." "You have never made anything sound accidental." She frowned. "That's not true. You once announced Raymond's vasectomy at Thanksgiving. He kept asking why there weren't more babies. The old memory caught me off guard." A laugh escaped, small and sharp. June smiled with satisfaction. "There you are." I offered her my arm. She did not need it, but she took it anyway. We walked to the food line together while Adrian stood holding the microphone and pretending the room had not shifted. At the center table, Marlene sat in my chair. She looked miserable. That gave me no pleasure. My assigned table held Harold Webb, who had worked with Raymond for 27 years, and Evelyn and Morris Grant, June's neighbors from the house she had lived in before moving to her smaller place. I knew all three. Harold had attended more Bell funerals than some Bell cousins. Evelyn brought June groceries every Thursday. Morris fixed her porch rail without accepting payment. The friends at the friends table had done a fair amount of family work. Harold pulled out my chair. "They put the good people back here. They put us near the coffee," Morris said. "That's power." Evelyn pointed toward the kitchen doors. "And the pie comes through there first." "Cobbler," I corrected. "Even better." I sat beneath the sign Adrian had made. From that angle, the room looked different. The center table blocked my view of the memorial board. Every time the service doors opened, warm kitchen air rolled across my back. The servers apologized each time they passed, as if they had chosen my seat. Conversation rose around us. Harold told a story about Raymond falling asleep during a safety meeting. Morris complained that the lake charged $15 to rent a paddle boat that looked old enough to remember Eisenhower. I laughed in the right places. Across the room, Adrian watched me. Whenever I met his eyes, he looked away. During lunch, relatives stopped at our table to speak to me. Some seemed not to notice the sign. Others noticed and became painfully cheerful. Cousin Pauline leaned over my shoulder. "Well, this is a strange place for you." "Excellent potato salad," I said. "Thank you. Did Adrian run out of seats up front? You'll have to ask Adrian." She looked toward him, then back at me. Her face sharpened with curiosity. I took another bite of potato salad. Darnell came by for cobbler and whispered, "You want me to move that sign?" "No, I could lose it. You lose your own car keys 3 times a week. Nobody would suspect you." His grin appeared and vanished. "Just say the word." I shook my head. There was comfort in knowing some people understood. There was also humiliation in needing them to. After the plates were cleared, Adrian returned to the microphone. "We're going to begin the remembrance portion of our program," he said. "Mom, if you'll come up and lead us." He smiled at me like we had rehearsed it. We had. I had written the names in order along with a sentence about each person so no one became just a date on poster board. Every face at my table turned toward me. I folded my napkin and set it beside my plate. "No, thank you," I said. Adrian lowered the microphone. "What? That should come from family." The microphone amplified Adrian's breathing. Around me, forks stopped scraping plates. Somewhere near the center table, a paper cup tipped over and rolled along the floor. Adrian gave a quick laugh that fooled no one. "Mom's being modest." "No," I said. "I'm being appropriately seated." Harold lowered his head, but I saw the corner of his mouth twitch. Adrian's smile disappeared. "Can you come here, please? I'm comfortable here." June twisted around in her chair. Raymond stared at his plate. Marlene looked as if she would happily crawl underneath hers. Adrian turned off the microphone, though his voice still carried. "You wrote the remembrance?" "Yes." "You have all the notes. They're on the podium. You know the people. That's why you asked me to write it." His face flushed. "Would you please stop making this difficult?" I looked up at him. "You wanted the ceremony to come from the center of the Bell family. There you are." A few people shifted in their chairs. Darnell became fascinated by the bottom of his shoe. June started to stand, but I caught her eye and shook my head. If she marched over with her cane, the story would become 2 older women ruining Adrian's beautiful reunion. We would be accused of drama by people who had crossed an entire room to create it. Adrian turned the microphone on again. "All right," he said. "I'll lead us." There was a thinness in his voice I had never heard before. For one ugly second, I wanted him to fail. Then he picked up the first page, and I wanted to rush over, smooth his shirt collar, whisper the opening sentence, and save him. Both feelings embarrassed me. He began with Uncle Horace, who had died after the previous reunion. He read the line I had written about Horace teaching half the family how to drive in a station wagon that pulled hard to the left. People laughed softly. Next came cousin Inez Bell Sawyer. Adrian pronounced her name Iones. It had been Niece. If he had ever sat with her for more than 2 minutes, she would have corrected him before he finished saying hello. His eyes lifted from the page and found mine. I took a drink of water. He tried again. Inez was known for her pound cake and her chess, Pauline called out. Adrian glanced down. Right, her chess playing. She hated pound cake, Darnell said. That was Evelyn, somebody else added. No, Evelyn made the coconut cake. Which Evelyn? Voices rose around the room. Adrian flipped through the pages as if the answer might be printed on the back. It was not his fault that Bell family memories behaved like loose change, rolling under furniture the moment you needed them. But he had treated the person who kept track of those memories as disposable, and now the disorder belonged to him. June finally called. Inez played chess, drank bourbon, and made a lemon icebox pie that could make a grown man lie to his doctor. That's what I meant, Darnell said. June pointed her cane at him. You never know what you mean. The room laughed, and the tension loosened enough for Adrian to continue. He recovered. I had to give him that. He stopped pretending he knew everything and began asking people to share memories. The ceremony became messier than the one I had planned, but also livelier. Pauline told a story too long. Harold cried while talking about Horace. Raymond remembered a cousin teaching him to swim by pushing him off a dock, then admitted he still hated lakes. For a few minutes, the room felt like family again. That was the trouble. Belonging could survive terrible manners. It could survive divorce, grudges, bad potato salad, and 30-year arguments over borrowed money. Apparently, it could also survive one woman being pushed to the edge, so long as that woman did not object loudly enough to disturb lunch. When the remembrance ended, Adrian announced a 15-minute break before the family photograph. I stood and gathered my purse. Evelyn touched my wrist. "You leaving?" "Yes." "Before the picture?" "I've been moved outside the frame already." She did not offer a cheerful denial. I appreciated that. Morris stood to let me pass. "We can walk you out. I know the way." Harold reached for the empty cobbler pans stacked on the side table. "At least let me carry those." "I've got them." "You've got 4. I came in with 4. You came in before lunch. I let him take 2. June intercepted us near the door. "You are not leaving," she said. "I am." "You can't. We haven't had cobbler. There are 2 pans left. I don't care about the cobbler." "That is a very hurtful lie." Her mouth trembled, and the joke fell between us. June took my hand. "I'm sorry. You didn't do it. I let him." "You didn't know." "I know now." Behind her, people were beginning to rearrange chairs for the photograph. Adrian stood on the low platform, arguing with Darnell about whether the tall people should be in the back. Raymond saw me near the door. His expression tightened, but he did not come over. I wondered what Adrian had told him. "Stay for me," June said. I looked into the face of the woman who had stood beside me at my mother's funeral, slept on my couch the week Raymond left, and once driven across town at midnight because I thought I smelled gas. That was almost enough. "Not today," I said. Her fingers tightened around mine. "Will you call me?" "I always call you." "Promise." "I promise." Adrian's voice came from behind us. "Where are you going?" Harold looked at me, then at my son. "I'll put these in her car. Thank you." He walked out carrying the pans. Adrian stepped between June and me. Up close, I could see sweat along his hairline. "We're doing the picture. You're doing the picture. You can't leave before the family picture." The sentence was so perfect, I nearly admired it. "Why not? Because you're my mother, but not technically a Belle." His eyes shifted toward June. "Aunt June, could you give us a minute?" "No." "June," I said. She looked ready to fight both of us, but after a moment, she released my hand. "I'll be on that bench," she said, pointing toward a bench less than 10 feet away. "If either of you says anything stupid, I'm coming back." Adrian waited until she sat down. "You embarrassed me in there." "I declined to lead a ceremony. You made sure everybody knew why." "I answered when you asked." "You could have come up and talked to me privately." "I did talk to you privately. You told me not to make the day about me. That doesn't mean you get to make some passive-aggressive announcement in front of the whole room. I used your categories. They're seating categories. They're your categories. I made one change because Dad was uncomfortable. Then your father should have spoken to me. He didn't want a confrontation. And yet, here we are." Adrian pressed the heels of his hands against his eyes. For one moment, he looked exhausted rather than angry. "I've been trying to keep everybody happy for weeks," he said. I almost laughed. "Have you?" "Yes." "Name one thing you asked your father to give up." His hands dropped. "This isn't about taking sides. No, it's about knowing which side will forgive you." He looked toward the open hall doors. Raymond stood near the platform with his arm around Marlene, waiting while Pauline tried to arrange the shorter relatives in front. The space beside Raymond was empty. "You're going to regret leaving," Adrian said. "Maybe. Everybody's going to ask where you are. Tell them I was seated with the friends." "Mom, come on." I kissed June goodbye, walked outside, and found Harold waiting by my car with the cobbler pans already inside. He closed the rear door. You want me to stay until you're gone? He asked. I'm 67, Harold. I can back out of a parking space. I meant in case your son comes running out. He won't. We both looked at the lodge entrance. Adrian did not appear. Harold slipped his hands into his pockets. Raymond was a fool. That's old business. Still true. You worked with him too long. That's how I know. I hugged him and got into my car. As I pulled away, the reunion gathered on the lodge steps for the photograph. I could see them in my rearview mirror, bright shirts and pale dresses compressed into rows. Adrian stood near the center. Raymond and Marlene were beside him. June remained seated on the bench. There was an open space to Adrian's left. He kept looking toward the parking lot until the trees blocked my view. At home, the kitchen still smelled of peaches and cinnamon. Flour remained on the counter where I had left it. That morning's coffee sat cold in the pot. I placed the empty pans in the sink and removed my shoes. My phone began vibrating before I reached the living room. Pauline wanted to know if I was feeling sick. Darnell sent a picture of himself pointing at the Friends of the Family sign with an expression of exaggerated outrage. June called twice. I answered the second time. He told people you had a headache, she said. I do now. He should be ashamed. He's too busy. Raymond says he didn't mean for any of this to happen. Raymond has built an entire life out of things he didn't mean to happen. June made a sound that might have been a laugh. Do you want me to come over? She asked. No. Stay. Eat cobbler. Adrian's upset. Then he should have some too. You're making jokes. I know. That means you're either fine or furious. I don't know yet. After we hung up, I turned off my phone and sat in the quiet. The house had been mine alone since the divorce, but it rarely felt empty. Adrian came every Sunday. June stopped by. Belle cousins dropped off dishes, borrowed serving trays, or stood on my porch asking what time Thanksgiving started. That night, the silence felt newly assigned. I went to bed at 9 and remained awake until after midnight. At 11:40 the next morning, someone knocked twice and opened the front door. Mom? Adrian had used his key. I came out of the laundry room carrying a basket of towels. He stood in the entry with 2 grocery bags and the remains of Marlene's pound cake. You didn't answer your phone, he said. It's turned off, I figured. He lifted one bag. I brought the leftover chicken. I thought we could make sandwiches. We? For lunch. I shifted the basket against my hip. I'm not cooking today. You don't have to cook. They're sandwiches. Then you know what to do. His mouth tightened. Are we really going to act like this? I'm doing laundry. You walked into my house. I always walk in. I know. Something in my voice made him glance at the key in his hand. He set the bags on the side table. Can we talk? Not if you're going to explain the seating again. I was trying to make the best decision I could. For your father. For everyone. You keep saying that. I was there, Adrian. I know who everyone did not include. He followed me toward the kitchen. So what, you're canceling Sunday dinner now? I placed the laundry basket on a chair. You classified me as a friend in front of 76 people, then came into my house the next day expecting your mother. His face went still. You're my mother, wherever you sit. Then you should have acted like my son, wherever your father sat. He looked down at the grocery bags, suddenly uncertain what to do with them. Sunday dinner is done for now, I said. Adrian stared at me as if I had shut off the electricity. What does for now mean? It means I don't know. You don't know when I'm allowed to have dinner with my own mother? You are 42 years old. You are allowed to eat dinner whenever you like. That's not what I asked. It's the question I'm willing to answer. He paced to the sink, looked inside, then paced back. The empty cobbler pans were drying in the rack. One still had a dark rim of burnt sugar that would take soaking to remove. This has nothing to do with us, he said. It was your hand that moved the card. I'm talking about Sunday dinner. So am I. That's private. That's you and me. And the reunion wasn't? It was 76 people with different expectations, old grudges. Dad and Marlene trying to. Your father and Marlene are adults. I know that. Then why did you decide I was the one who needed to disappear? I didn't make you disappear. You placed me under a sign identifying what I was allowed to be." His jaw shifted. "You left the picture on purpose. I didn't want to be in it, because you wanted everyone to notice." I laughed once. "You wanted me somewhere people wouldn't notice me, and now you're angry they noticed I was gone." He turned away, pressing his palms against the counter. I had seen Adrian angry before. As a teenager, he slammed doors hard enough to rattle picture frames. As a grown man, he became painfully reasonable. His voice dropped. His vocabulary improved. He could make a person feel irrational simply by refusing to raise his volume. "Are you punishing me?" he asked. "No." "That's what this feels like. You expected lunch." "There is no lunch. Disappointment isn't always punishment. You make lunch every Sunday. I did. So you're going to throw away a tradition because of one seating mistake. It wasn't a mistake. You explained it very clearly." He shook his head. "Fine. A decision you didn't like. That is not the same sentence." "Okay, then tell me what you want. You want me to apologize?" "I'm sorry." The words arrived flat and fast, like change dropped on a counter. "For what?" I asked. His eyes narrowed. "Seriously?" "Yes, I'm sorry I moved your place card." "Why?" "Because it hurt your feelings." That answer had been popular with men in my life. It turned the harm into a problem of sensitivity. Nothing wrong had happened. A woman had simply gone and felt something. I picked up the laundry basket. "You should take the chicken home," I said. "Mom, and the pound cake. I have food." "You're not listening. I've listened to everything you've said." He stepped in front of me. "I'm trying to fix this." "No, you're trying to end the part where I'm upset. What is the difference?" "The first one takes longer." He opened his mouth, then closed it. I walked around him and carried the towels toward the hallway. He followed me as far as the living room. "So I'm just supposed to leave?" "That would be best." His gaze moved to the framed photographs on the mantel. There was one of him and me at his college graduation, one of June holding an umbrella over both of us at a rainy outdoor concert, and one old Belle reunion photograph from before the divorce. Raymond stood behind me in that picture, his hand on my shoulder. Adrian was on my other side, squinting into the sun. I wondered if he was searching the pictures for proof that I was being unfair. At the front door, he lifted the grocery bags again. "I used my key because I thought you might be sick," he said. "I'm not sick." "You weren't answering." "My phone was off." "You never turn your phone off. I did yesterday." His face softened for the first time. "That scared me." "I'm sorry it scared you." He waited. "But from now on," I said, "knock and wait." The softness vanished. "You're taking my key?" "I didn't say that. You just told me I can't use it. I gave it to you for emergencies, not sandwiches." He set the bags down and pulled his key ring from his pocket. The brass key to my front door hung beside his car fob, and a little bottle opener shaped like a fish. He held it for a moment, then began working it off the ring. "I am not asking for the key back." "Why stop there?" "Adrian." The key caught beneath his thumbnail. He jerked it loose and placed it on the side table. "There," he said. "Now you won't have to worry about me confusing your house with family." He took the bags and left before I could answer. The front door closed softly. That was worse than a slam. I stood there with the laundry basket cutting into my hip and looked at the key. A person could make a boundary and still hate the sound it made. The phone calls started that afternoon. Pauline wanted to know whether I had stomach trouble because she had heard I left sick. Darnell wanted permission to tell everyone exactly why I left. June wanted to know if Adrian had apologized. Harold wanted to know whether there was any cobbler left. Though I suspected that was an excuse to check on me, I gave each of them a different version of "I'm fine," none more convincing than the last. Raymond did not call. At 6, I made one sandwich from ingredients I already had. I ate it standing at the counter, then became irritated with myself and carried the plate to the dining table. The table had 6 chairs. When Raymond first moved out, I had considered replacing it with something smaller. I never did. Adrian still came on Sundays, and June often joined us. Sometimes one of the Bell cousins appeared without warning, guided by the old belief that my kitchen contained enough food for whoever entered it. That evening, one chair held my purse. Another held the clean towels I had not folded. The rest stayed empty. June arrived the next morning with a peppermint in her mouth and a paper folder tucked beneath her arm. "You said you were calling," I told her. "I called from the driveway. That's not calling. That's announcing. You let me in. You rang the bell until I worried the neighbors would complain." She handed me the folder. The final expenses. I did not take it. June looked down at the papers, then back at me. We always go through them after. This was Adrian's reunion. It was still ours. No. The word came out harder than I intended. June walked past me into the kitchen. "Put coffee on before you start issuing decrees. You don't live here. I've outlasted one owner." "You mean Raymond?" "He always acted like it was his house." I made coffee. June sat at the table and opened the folder. Receipts, attendance lists, and a page of her handwritten notes covered in arrows. She had been doing reunion debriefs for so long that she could criticize a person's macaroni without writing their name. "The rental company overcharged us for 2 tables," she said. "Adrian thinks we should use the church hall next year, but the kitchen is too small. I won't be organizing next year." June stopped turning pages. "I understand you're upset. I'm not saying it because I'm upset. That makes it worse. I'll attend if I'm invited. I'm not planning it. You don't have to decide today. I decided yesterday." "Lorraine, I love you. I love most of them, depending on the day. But I'm not spending weeks calling people, labeling photographs, and cooking for a reunion where my place can be changed because somebody who shares the right last name might feel awkward." June closed the folder. "You belong there, more than half of them. Then half of them can take a turn." She pulled the peppermint from her mouth and wrapped it in a tissue, which meant she was preparing to say something serious. "I should have said something when I saw that sign. I asked you not to. You shouldn't have had to ask. That doesn't make it your fault. I'm his aunt. Maybe I could talk to him." "No, he listens to me. He tolerates you loudly. That counts." "June, don't fight him for me." "Why not? Because then he'll apologize to calm you down. I need him to understand what he did when nobody is making him." She studied me with that merciless affection only an old friend can manage. "And if he doesn't?" I looked toward the brass key still lying on the side table in the living room. "Then I need to understand that too." June reached across the table and covered my hand with hers. For a while, neither of us said anything. Then she tapped the folder. "Can you at least tell me why we paid $84 for tablecloth clips? Ask the chairman. He told me to ask you. Then he has begun learning." Adrian texted that afternoon. "Where is Cousin Pauline's new address?" I typed it from memory, then deleted it. It was on the attendance list he had put together. I told him so. "Can you just send it? I don't have the list with me." I looked at the message for a full minute. "Why do you need it?" "Thank you notes." The responsible answer pleased me despite myself. "The list is in your blue reunion binder, front pocket." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then returned. "It would take you 2 seconds to send it. It will take you 30 seconds to find it." He did not reply. 2 days later, he asked whether I remembered who had taken home the glass punch bowl. The day after that, he wanted the spelling of Cousin Calvin's middle name for the photograph captions. I directed him to the family tree. Each exchange left me feeling both stronger and meaner. On Friday, my younger sister Denise called while I was changing the sheets. "I hear you got deported from your own reunion," she said. "Good afternoon to you too. Darnell sent me a picture of the sign. I'm going to block that man." "You won't. You like him." "I can like him without wanting him to become a news service." Denise laughed. "So what happened?" Adrian changed the seating. "I got that part." "Then why are you asking?" "Because you sound like somebody describing a delayed flight." I tucked the corner of the sheet beneath the mattress. "I don't want to discuss it. That means it was worse than the picture." Denise, I'm not asking so I can gossip. You don't usually require a reason. That was almost funny. My sister and I loved each other best from separate houses. She was 5 years younger, sharper where I was patient, impatient where I was practical, and still convinced I had abandoned our side of the family when I married into the Bells. "Are you still doing dinner on Sunday?" she asked. "No." The answer escaped before I could protect it. Silence. Then Denise said, more gently, "Come eat with me. I have plans." "What plans?" "I don't know yet. That is not how plans work. I might enjoy being alone. You hate eating alone. I'm learning new things. Learn on Monday, Sunday. Come to my place." I smoothed a wrinkle from the sheet that did not need smoothing. "What are you making?" I asked. "Reservations." "You don't make reservations. You show up and argue until they find a table. It has worked for 62 years, not when you were 3. I had you then." I closed my eyes. 6 o'clock, she said. "Wear something that doesn't have flour on it." "I'll think about it." "No, you'll be there. Thinking is what got you 32 years of unpaid reunion employment." Before I could answer, she hung up. I stood beside the neatly made bed holding the silent phone. Then, against my better judgment, I began to laugh. Denise chose a restaurant with white tablecloths and no prices printed beside the specials. "That's how you know the fish is too expensive," I told her as we waited for the hostess. "That's how I know you'll order chicken. I like chicken. You like knowing what something costs before you commit." The hostess led us to a table by the window. Denise slid into the chair facing the room, as she always did. She claimed sitting with her back to strangers made her uneasy. I believed she simply preferred to see who was wearing something she disliked. She had dressed in a red blouse, gold hoop earrings, and enough perfume to announce her several seconds before she arrived. I wore navy because Denise had specifically told me not to. "You look respectable," she said. "You look flammable." "Good. We're both happy." A server poured water and introduced himself. Denise listened seriously to every special, asked 3 questions about the trout, then ordered steak. I ordered chicken. She waited until the server left before asking, "Did Adrian call?" "No." "You looked at your phone 4 times. I was checking the time." "There's a clock over the bar. It's 7 minutes fast." "You checked?" "Of course." Denise shook her head. "You know, when you said he moved your card, I pictured a mix-up. Like somebody needed room for a wheelchair or June wanted to sit near the bathroom. No. He printed a sign? Yes. And put Marlene in your chair? Yes." "Did she ask him to?" "She said she didn't." "Do you believe her?" "I think so." Denise leaned back. "That's irritating." "I know. It would be easier if she were awful." I told her something similar. "You and your replacement are developing rapport." "Very modern. Marlene did not replace me. She literally took your seat because Adrian gave it to her." That silenced Denise for a moment. She picked up her water glass. What did he say? That Raymond was uncomfortable, that Marlene was his wife, and I wasn't technically a Belle. Her glass stopped halfway to her mouth. I looked out the window at cars passing beneath the streetlights. Denise set the glass down carefully. "And you didn't slap him." "Of course not." "Throw a roll?" "There weren't rolls yet." "A fork, then." "We had plastic. This reunion gets worse every time you describe it." I laughed, but the laugh caught in my throat. Denise saw. She looked away before I had to. Our meals arrived. My chicken came arranged on top of mashed potatoes with 3 green beans, crossing one another like decorative fencing. Denise's steak occupied the plate without apology. For a while, we talked about ordinary things. Her upstairs neighbor had bought a treadmill and used it only at dawn. My washing machine had developed a rattle. Denise said that was because I still wash towels by color, and I told her appliance repair was not one of the subjects on which I accepted advice from a woman who had once left a spoon in her garbage disposal. "I was newly single," she said. "Did the spoon leave you?" The spoon knew what it did. She made me laugh again. My phone lit up beside my plate. "Adrian." I turned it face down. Denise cut into her steak. "Answer it." "No." What if something happened? He can leave a message. The phone stopped, then began again. I answered. What is it? Hi to you too, Adrian said. You called twice. I'm with Aunt June. I sat straighter. What happened? Nothing happened. She has an appointment in the morning and we're filling out the intake forms. I could have done that. The words left my mouth from habit. Across the table, Denise raised one eyebrow. Adrian continued, She doesn't remember the name of the medication she takes at night. June knows the name. She says it's the little white one. That describes half the pharmacy. Put her on. There was muffled conversation, then June's voice. I know what it's called. What? The doctor knows. June. I've been taking it for 4 years. What is it called? The name's too long. Go to your kitchen. In the drawer beside the refrigerator, there's a yellow notebook. I know where my own notebook is. Then why are we having this conversation? Because your son panics when a line is left blank. Adrian's voice came from farther away. The appointment's at 8:30. We don't want to hold them up. June muttered something about people who made appointments that early deserving delay. I heard a drawer open. Lisinopril, she said. 10 milligrams. That's the morning one. The night one is amlodipine 5. I knew that. You just said lisinopril. I was testing you. I smiled despite myself. Write both down. Adrian came back on the phone. Got it. Thanks. You're welcome. Also, do you know who has the glass punch bowl? Aunt June thinks Pauline took it, and Pauline says Morris loaded it into, Good night, Adrian. Mom, it's a 5-second question. I'm having dinner. A pause. With who? Whom? Denise called loudly. Adrian heard her. Is that Aunt Denise? It is Denise, I said. What are you doing with her? Denise reached for my phone. I moved it out of range. Eating, I said. You should finish June's form. Can we talk tomorrow? About June? About us? I looked at my sister, who had stopped eating. Not tomorrow, I said. Then when? I'll call you when I'm ready. He was silent long enough that I checked the screen to see whether the call had disconnected. Okay, he said at last. The word was quiet, stripped of argument. I hung up. Denise speared one of my green beans without asking. You just told Adrian no. I've told him no before. When? I don't keep a record. That's because the last time was during the Clinton administration. Give me my green bean back. It's too late. She ate it. I put my phone in my purse. June had a medical question. And you answered it. Yes. Then he asked about a punch bowl, and you didn't. Yes. I'm impressed. You make me sound spineless. No, you have a spine. You've just been renting it out. I set down my fork. Denise reached for her water. There she is. Who? The woman who thinks anger is something that happens to other people. I get angry. You get efficient. That is not a flaw. It is when you use efficiency to avoid deciding whether somebody deserves your help. I looked toward the server, but he was across the room pouring wine. Denise lowered her voice. Do you know how many times I invited you somewhere and you couldn't come because of a bell thing? That's unfair. It's arithmetic. Raymond had a large family. So did you. Our family was you, me, Mom, and Dad. Then Mom and Dad died, and you acted like I came with office hours. That is not true. You didn't stop loving me. You just always had something more urgent. June needed a ride. Pauline needed help with a dinner. Somebody's cousin had died, and you were making 6 pans of baked spaghetti. People need food when someone dies. Did they need 6 pans from you? You're still angry about spaghetti? I don't care about the spaghetti. You sound like you care deeply. Denise sighed and pushed her plate away. I'm saying they made you important. I understand why you liked it. They didn't make me anything. Fine. You made yourself important to them. I loved those people. I know. And they loved me. I know that too. Then what are you trying to say? She traced a water ring with one finger. Being the person everybody needs is safe for you. You never have to ask if they want you when you're not carrying something. I felt heat rise along my neck. That sounds like something you read on a mug. It was a napkin. You don't know my relationships with those people. I know you arrived at a family reunion with a car full of supplies, and your son put you beside the service doors. Our server approached, saw our faces, and made a smooth turn toward another table. I folded my napkin. This was a mistake. The chicken? Coming here. Denise nodded. Probably. I reached for my purse. She put her hand over mine. But you came, she said. So stay long enough to be mad. Her voice had lost all its sharpness. I looked at her hand. She wore 3 rings, none of them sentimental. Denise said jewelry should be chosen for beauty, not guilt. I'm not mad at you, I said. You are now. I'm not leaving. Good. I'm going to order dessert. That's growth. I'm also making you pay for it. That's family. We shared a piece of chocolate cake that was too small for the price and too rich to finish. When Denise drove me home, she did not ask about next Sunday. She kissed my cheek, waited until I unlocked the door, and called through the open car window. Don't wash anything tonight. I can wash my own dishes. Of course you can. That's the entire problem. She drove away before I could answer. Inside, I turned on the hallway lamp. Adrian's key still lay on the side table. I picked it up, carried it to the kitchen, then carried it back again. My phone showed a message from Pauline. I hope you and Adrian work things out. He feels terrible that you misunderstood the seating situation. I read it twice. Not that he had made a terrible decision. Not that he regretted hurting me. That I had misunderstood. I typed, there was no misunderstanding. Before I could send it, another message appeared. I don't want to get in the middle. Families are complicated. Families, apparently, became complicated whenever plain language might make someone responsible. I deleted my reply. Pauline did not call again that week. Neither did 2 cousins who usually checked on me after the reunion. When I mentioned it to June, she told me Adrian had asked everyone to give me space until I calmed down. I'll call them, June said. No, he's making you sound irrational. Anyone who knows me can decide for themselves. That is a dangerous amount of faith to put in relatives. I knew she was right. Still, I did not correct the story. I did not send photographs of the sign or repeat Adrian's words. I did not want to win the family by forcing them to choose between us. The next Sunday, I set one place at the dining table. I ate slowly, seated instead of standing at the counter. Afterward, I left the plate in the sink and watched television without cleaning it. At 8:15, Adrian texted, "Do you know why Aunt Pauline isn't speaking to Dad?" I knew exactly why. I typed 3 paragraphs, deleted them, and sent 2 words. Ask Pauline. Adrian replied almost immediately. She says she's busy, then perhaps she is. She hasn't been busy for 3 days. I considered explaining that Pauline was angry because Raymond had taken a photograph from the memorial board before she could make a copy. He claimed the photograph belonged to him. Pauline claimed their mother had given it to her. Neither had mentioned the picture for 20 years, but once both wanted it, it became an artifact of national importance. I had settled similar disputes with duplicate prints, careful wording, and pie. This time, I set down the phone. On Tuesday, Pauline called me, not to discuss the photograph, but to ask whether I still had the recipe for June's lemon icebox pie. Inez's pie? I asked. She wasn't the only person who made lemon pie. She was the only one June talked about at the reunion. A pause opened between us. Pauline cleared her throat. Adrian did the best he could with that ceremony. I didn't say he didn't. He was put on the spot. He asked me to lead it after moving me to the friends table. I said, I don't want to get in the middle. You called me. I called about a recipe. I opened the drawer where I kept the small metal recipe box. I could see the tab marked PIs without touching it. I don't have Inez's recipe, I said. You made it for her retirement dinner. She gave me instructions. That's not the same as giving me her recipe. Well, do you remember the instructions? Most of them. Could you write them down? I rested my hand on the closed drawer. Ask Darnell, Inez taught him. Darnell doesn't bake. He knows the recipe. Pauline sighed. Everything feels so unpleasant now. I almost apologized. The word rose automatically, ready to take responsibility for the temperature of a room I was not even in. I hope you find the recipe. I said. After the call, I opened the drawer and looked through the box. Inez's instructions were written on the back of an envelope in my handwriting. She had dictated them while drinking bourbon at my kitchen table, correcting me every time I tried to turn some sugar into an actual measurement. At the bottom, I had written, "Stop fussing and taste it. Inez." I returned the envelope to the box. I did not feel strong. I felt petty and tired. Denise came over that evening carrying takeout containers and a bottle of wine with a screw cap. "I brought dinner," she announced. "You weren't invited. I'm trying out Bell Family Customs. They usually bring empty containers. I'm classier than that." She had brought Thai food, including a curry spicy enough to make my eyes water. Denise insisted it was mild while drinking half her wine in 3 gulps. We ate at the dining table. I set 2 places without thinking about how many chairs remained empty. "I have a question," I said. "That sounds dangerous. When does a boundary become spite?" Denise put down her fork. "What did you do?" "Nothing. That wasn't my question." "Pauline asked for a recipe. I didn't give it to her. Did you have it?" "Maybe." Denise smiled. "I've never been prouder. I'm serious." "So am I." She didn't move the card. "No, she just told you that you misunderstood the person who did. I could have given her the recipe. You could have. You chose not to. What did that accomplish?" "You didn't do something you didn't want to do. That isn't an accomplishment. For you, it might be. I picked at a piece of chicken in the curry. I don't want to become mean. Mean people never worry about becoming mean. They worry about being called mean. You make statements like they're printed on plaques. I should sell plaques. I would not buy one. You would dust them." The wine softened the sharpest corners of the evening. After we ate, Denise washed the containers while I dried them. She left 1 spoon in the sink on purpose. I waited until her car pulled away before washing it. The next 2 Sundays, I ate with Denise. The first time, she cooked pork chops that could have been used as roofing material. The second, we returned to the expensive restaurant and ordered hamburgers at the bar. Adrian did not ask about dinner again. He texted questions. Where had June bought the cedar branches? Who had paid the deposit on the lodge? Did I have Harold's phone number? I answered only what could not be found in the blue binder. When June needed a ride to have blood drawn, Adrian took her. She called me from his car to complain about his driving. "He leaves too much room between himself and the car ahead," she said. "That is called safety. It is called inviting people to cut in." Adrian's voice came through the speaker. "Tell Mom I can hear her agreeing with you." "I'm not agreeing." He says you're not agreeing. I heard her. Then why am I repeating it? Because you like being involved. They bickered all the way to the clinic. I stayed on the phone and listened, smiling in spite of myself. Adrian was doing what I had always claimed I wanted him to do. He was helping without being asked twice. Yet each new responsibility seemed to register in his mind as evidence that I had abandoned him rather than evidence that I had carried too much. June's 70th birthday approached. She announced that she wanted a supper instead of a party. "A supper is a party where people judge the food more closely," I told her. "I don't want balloons. No balloons, no speeches. You'll get speeches. No rented hall. Where do you want it?" "My place. Your table seats 6. People can sit in the living room. Your living room chairs are low enough to require assistance getting out. That gives people a reason not to stay late." Without realizing it, I began planning aloud. We could move her dining table toward the window. The food should be simple. Someone would need to bring folding chairs, but not the gray metal ones that pinch the backs of people's legs. June listened until I stopped myself. "What?" she asked. "I'm doing it again." "Doing what?" "Taking over." "I asked where to get chairs. You did not." "I was about to." I gave her a look. She smiled without shame. "It's my birthday. I'll help you decide what you want. I am not organizing it," Adrian volunteered. "Good." He asked if you would make the lemon icebox pie. "No." June blinked. "You make it better than anybody. Inez made it better." "Inez is dead. Then you should have been nicer to her." "I was delightful to her. She cheated at cards. I'll bring flowers. Flowers aren't dessert. Ask Pauline. She has been researching the recipe. June's eyes narrowed with interest. What did Pauline do? Nothing. That means something. I'm not gossiping. Then call Darnell and put him on speaker. The doorbell rang before I could answer. Raymond stood on my porch holding a glass punch bowl. He lifted it slightly. Mystery solved. I stared at the bowl. Where was it? In my trunk. For 3 weeks? I forgot it was there. You opened your trunk 3 weeks ago, saw a large glass bowl and decided it belonged. I assumed Marlene bought it. Does Marlene often purchase used punch bowls full of paper cups? He looked down. Several red cups were nested inside it. I didn't inspect the contents. June appeared behind me. If that bowl could talk, it would ask for a smarter family. Raymond smiled. Hello to you too. He stepped inside without being invited. Some habits survive divorce with impressive stamina. I took the bowl to the kitchen while June retrieved her purse. She had planned to leave for an appointment with a woman who did alterations, although she admitted the woman was expecting her an hour later. You two need privacy, she whispered loudly. We do not, I said. I'll call you. You don't drive anymore. I know how telephones work. Raymond offered to take her, but she refused and ordered a car from her phone. June had once considered online banking a sign of societal collapse. Now she summoned drivers like minor royalty. When she was gone, Raymond remained in the living room with his hands in his pockets. You want coffee? I asked. No, that meant the punch bowl was not the reason for his visit. What happened with Pauline? I asked. She told me I humiliated you. You didn't move the card. His eyes shifted. Did you? No. Then what are you here to discuss? Adrian says you're refusing to help with anything. I helped June with her medication. I gave him the financial records he needed. You told Pauline you wouldn't give her Inez's recipe. Did Pauline call every man in the family before attempting to make a pie? He thinks you're using this to punish everybody. You mean Adrian thinks that. Several people think it. I crossed my arms. What do you think? Raymond wandered to the mantel and picked up the old reunion photograph. His thumb covered part of my dress. I think he handled it badly. Handled what? Marlene was nervous. I told him that. Told him what? That it might be uncomfortable for her, sitting with you. We were 3 seats apart. I didn't know where the cards were. You knew where she sat. That was after he moved me. Raymond put the photograph down. I watched his face. Raymond had never been good at direct lies. He became overly still, as if movement might knock the truth loose. Did you ask him to move me? I said. No. Did you tell him you wouldn't attend if I sat at the family table? Of course not. Did Marlene? No. I waited. He rubbed one hand over his jaw. I told him I wanted the day to be easy for her. That was all. And when you saw where he put me, I assumed there was some seating reason. Under friends of the family? I didn't see the sign until lunch. You didn't ask. His shoulders lifted, then dropped. I didn't want to make it worse. There was the old sentence, freshly polished. I did not mean for this to happen. I did not know what to say. I did not want to make it worse. Raymond could stand beside a fire with a bucket in his hand and explain that he had not wanted to interfere with the flames. Adrian told me you were uncomfortable, I said. He used you as the reason. Raymond looked genuinely startled. I never told him to move you. I believed him. That was the part that broke something new. After Raymond left, I stood at the side table and picked up Adrian's brass key. It had been there long enough to leave a faint outline in the dust. I called my son. He answered on the second ring. Mom, did your father ask you to move my name card? Silence. Not confusion, not surprise. Silence. Adrian? I'm here. That wasn't an answer. He exhaled. I heard traffic behind him, then a car horn. I'm driving. Pull over. Mom, I can talk and drive. Pull over or I'll hang up. There was a longer rush of road noise, a turn signal, then the crunch of tires against gravel. He did not speak until the engine went quiet. "All right," he said. "I'm pulled over." "Did your father ask you to move me?" Not in those exact words. What exact words did he use? He said he was worried about Marlene. He wanted her to feel welcome. He said putting her in some secondary seat would make it look like nobody accepted his marriage. Was my name already at the center table? Yes. Did he know that? I don't know. Did he ask where I was sitting? No. Then he did not ask you to move me. Adrian's voice sharpened. He didn't have to spell everything out. Apparently he did, because you heard something he says he never meant. Of course he says that now. He looked surprised. Dad always looks surprised when one of his decisions has consequences. It was such an accurate description that I nearly agreed. Then I remembered whose decision we were discussing. "Do not hide behind your father's faults," I said. "I'm not hiding. You told me he was uncomfortable, as if his discomfort left you no choice. He was uncomfortable. He's uncomfortable wearing socks with a seam. You don't rearrange a room for it. This is pointless. No. This is the first useful conversation we've had. You decided where I belonged. You did it yourself." He was silent again. I walked to the living room window. Across the street, my neighbor was trimming a hedge into a shape no plant had ever requested. "Why?" I asked. "I told you. You told me why Marlene needed to sit at that table. You haven't told me why I needed to be removed from it. There wasn't room for both of you beside Aunt June. There were 76 chairs. Dad and Marlene needed to be at the center. She's his wife. You keep saying that like I dispute the marriage. You say you don't, but the whole room still treats you like the Bell matriarch. People ask you questions instead of her. They call you about Dad's relatives. They acted like Marlene was your guest. That was not my doing, I know. Do you?" "Yes, Mom. I know people depend on you." That was part of the problem. I gripped the curtain edge. My usefulness was a problem? You make everything sound ugly. I'm repeating what you say. He made a frustrated sound. I wanted Dad and Marlene to feel like they had a real place. A place that wasn't borrowed from his old marriage. So you gave them mine. I thought you would understand. There it was. Not I thought you would agree. Not I thought it was right. I thought you would understand. The family phrase for Lorraine will take the wound and find a polite place to store it. Why me? I asked. What? Why did you think I would understand? Because you always say chairs and titles don't matter. You say relationships are bigger than that. I believed mine was. It is. Then why was mine the relationship you spent? The line went quiet enough for me to hear the ticking of the clock in my hallway. When Adrian spoke again, his voice had changed. "You're my mother," he said. "As opposed to what? You know I love you. I know you believe that made me safe to hurt. That's not fair. It is exactly what happened." He started the engine, then shut it off again. "I had one chance to do this right," he said. "Dad has never trusted me with anything for the family. He still talks to me like I'm going to mess up. When I volunteered for the reunion, he laughed. I didn't know that. Because I didn't tell you. Why? Because you would have told me not to care. I would have told you he was wrong. That doesn't make him stop being wrong." The anger had left his voice. Underneath it was something younger and more painful. I sat on the arm of the couch. "Did he approve of the reunion?" I asked. He said it turned out better than he expected. I could picture exactly what that small sentence had done to Adrian. Raymond's praise was always rationed so carefully that the person receiving it felt grateful for crumbs. "And was my seat part of earning that?" I asked. "No. Be honest. I am." "Then why did you need the center table to look a certain way? It wasn't about a picture. You told me I ruined the picture. You left it, after you arranged it." He breathed out slowly. "I wanted one day where things looked settled," he said. "Dad with Marlene, Aunt June at the center, me running it, everybody seeing that the family had moved on. And where did I fit in that picture? You were still there, at the table by the service doors. That isn't what I meant. Intent has been doing a great deal of work for the men in this family." He had no reply. I looked at his key in my hand. The edge had pressed a red groove into my palm. "You let me believe your father forced you," I said. "I said he was uncomfortable. You said you were respecting his marriage. You watched me blame his request because it was easier than telling me the choice was yours. I didn't lie. You arranged the truth to make yourself look less responsible. That is a lie with good posture. I'm sorry." This time the words came quietly. "For what?" I asked. He did not answer quickly. "For not telling you Dad didn't ask. That is one thing. For moving the card without talking to you. That is another. And for putting you at that table. Why? Because it embarrassed you." I closed my eyes. He was closer, but still standing outside the door. "I need to go," I said. "Mom, wait." "No. What happens now?" "I don't know. Are you coming to Aunt June's birthday if she invites me? She invited you before she invited anybody. Then yes. Can we talk there?" "No, her birthday is not about us." He gave a small, humorless laugh. "You're using my line." "No, I mean it." I ended the call. For several minutes, I remained on the couch with the phone in one hand and the key in the other. I had wanted the truth. Now that I had it, I missed the simpler injury. Being sacrificed to Raymond's demand would have made Adrian weak. Knowing he had done it to impress his father made him cruel in a way I understood too well. That understanding did not soften it. June called before I had decided whether to call her. "Raymond told me he visited," she said. "Does anyone in this family hold information for longer than 15 minutes? I can. I choose not to." I told her what Adrian had admitted. She listened without interruption, an event rare enough that I checked the phone once to make sure we were still connected. When I finished, she said, "Raymond caused this." "No." He put Adrian in the position. Raymond expressed a feeling. Adrian made a choice. Raymond has been making that boy chase him since he could walk. Adrian isn't a boy. I know how old he is. Then stop making him younger when he disappoints you. June drew in a breath. I immediately regretted the sharpness, but she did not retreat. "And you stop pretending 42 years of loving him disappeared because he did one terrible thing," she said. "I haven't stopped loving him." "Good. Because anger without love is easy. I don't want easy at my birthday. You are turning 70, not presiding over peace talks. I want you there. I said I would come. Adrian is handling the food. I won't interfere. I want flowers from you. Something yellow, no lilies. They smell like funerals. Yellow flowers, no lilies. And wear that green blouse. You told me last month it made me look pale. It will look good beside the flowers." She hung up before I could object. The birthday planning happened without me. That should have been a relief. Instead, I noticed every absence. No one asked how many pounds of chicken would feed 22 adults. No one needed me to decide whether paper napkins were acceptable. Adrian located folding chairs, ordered food from June's favorite restaurant, and convinced Pauline to attempt Inez's lemon pie using instructions Darnell remembered badly. June reported his progress in daily installments. "He ordered too much rice," she told me. "Then you'll have leftovers. The chairs don't match. People don't match." Pauline used bottled lemon juice. "Tell her I'm praying for her. Should I ask you to make a backup pie?" "No. You answered too fast. Denise helped me choose the flowers. She rejected 3 bouquets for being funeral adjacent and 1 for looking cheap." "They are flowers," I said. "They grow outside. So do weeds and poison ivy." We settled on yellow roses mixed with tiny white daisies. Denise made me buy a glass vase even though June owned at least 12. "Take your own car," she said as we left the florist. "I always do." "Good. Stay as long as you're comfortable, then leave. I don't need instructions. You seem to do well with place cards." I glared at her. "Too soon?" she asked. "Yes." Noted. The evening before June's supper, Adrian knocked on my door. He did not use the bell. He knocked 3 times and waited. When I opened it, he stood on the porch holding nothing, which made him look more uncertain than if he had brought flowers, food, or another lost punch bowl. "I wanted to make sure you knew what time tomorrow," he said. 6. People will probably get there around 5:30. I'll be there at 6. He nodded. His eyes moved past me to the side table. The brass key lay exactly where he had left it. I ordered a chair with arms for Aunt June, he said. For the table. She'll complain you're treating her like an invalid. I know. She'll use it. I know that too. For the first time since the reunion, something almost peaceful passed between us. Then he said, Dad and Marlene are coming. You don't have to warn me every time Marlene enters a room. I wasn't warning you. What were you doing? He looked down at the porch boards, trying not to make assumptions. I waited. He lifted his eyes again. I'm sorry about the lie. You're sorry I discovered it. No, I'm sorry I let you believe it. The difference was small, but it was there. I nodded once. Adrian glanced toward the side table again, then stepped back. He left the key where it was. I arrived at June's house at 6 o'clock, carrying the yellow flowers and nothing edible. That alone felt unnatural. Cars lined both sides of the street. Through the front window, I could see people moving between June's living room and dining room, plates held above one another's shoulders. Someone had opened the windows despite the heat. The curtains lifted and fell like the house was breathing too fast. Adrian opened the door before I knocked. You came, he said. I said I would. I know, come in. He wore another pale blue shirt, this one with a smear of sauce near the cuff. A dish towel hung over his shoulder. Behind him, Darnell was trying to unfold a chair, while Pauline insisted he was doing it backward. It is a chair, Darnell said. It has one direction. You're holding it upside down. That doesn't mean it opens different. It does when the floor is underneath it. Adrian reached for my vase. I've got it, I said. Right. His hands dropped. I took the flowers to June, who sat in the armchair he had ordered for her. It was sturdy, upright, and upholstered in beige fabric that did not match anything she owned. June looked at the vase, then at my blouse. You wore navy. It is a lovely evening, isn't it? I said green. I brought yellow flowers. You're pale in navy. You're 70. Not until 7:43 tonight. I kissed her cheek. She drew me closer and whispered, The rice is dry. You have gravy. The gravy is thin. You have wine. That is why you're my friend. Her living room held nearly 20 people and enough folding chairs to make the carpet disappear. Raymond and Marlene sat near the window. Harold was beside them, telling a story with his hands. Evelyn and Morris shared the low love seat and looked unlikely to rise from it without assistance. Several people greeted me with the excessive warmth usually reserved for someone returning from surgery. Pauline hugged me and held on 1 second too long. You look well, she said. I was seated near the kitchen, not hospitalized. Her arms loosened. I didn't mean, I know. Raymond stood. Can I get you something to drink? I can manage. I was just offering. Then thank you. I'll have water. He brought me wine. Marlene watched the exchange. He does that to me, too. I heard water. He hears whatever allows him to keep moving. Raymond held the glass out to me. It's white. That is not another word for water. You want me to take it back? I accepted the wine. No. Then I made the right decision. Don't strain yourself celebrating. He walked away smiling, grateful for any conversation that resembled our old rhythm. I regretted giving it to him. Marlene shifted in her chair. May I tell you something without making the night worse? That depends entirely on the thing. I asked Raymond what he said to Adrian. I know. He told you? He brought me a punch bowl and accidentally confessed. Her eyes closed briefly. That sounds like him. Apparently the bowl had been in his trunk for 3 weeks. That also sounds like him. He said he never asked Adrian to move me. He didn't. You knew? Not until after the reunion. I thought... She stopped. What? I thought you might have chosen to sit somewhere else so I could sit with Raymond. I stared at her. Why would I choose a seat beneath friends of the family? I didn't see the sign until you were already sitting there. By then you and Adrian had argued. Everyone was watching. So you stayed. Yes. The answer was honest enough to irritate me less than an excuse would have. I should have moved, she said. I told you not to. You shouldn't have had to protect me from looking rude. I wasn't protecting you. I was refusing to turn Adrian's decision into a contest between us. Still. She looked toward the dining room, where Adrian was carrying a stack of plates while Raymond explained something he was not helping with. I was relieved, Marlene said. I waited. When I saw my name beside Raymond, I was relieved. I knew it was wrong, but for 1 second I was glad I wasn't the woman put at the edge. There was no comfortable response to that. Thank you for telling me, I said. I'm not sure why I did. Neither am I. She smiled faintly. Maybe I got tired of sounding nice. Nice is exhausting. So is feeling guilty every time you enter a room. That part belongs to Raymond. I know. He keeps misplacing it. Before I could answer, Adrian called everyone to eat. He had arranged June's small dining table as a buffet. Aluminum trays crowded the surface. There was too much rice, too little chicken, thin gravy, green beans cooked nearly gray, and Pauline's lemon pie leaning to one side as if attempting escape. I could see 5 problems immediately. I picked up a plate. Adrian moved beside me. The serving spoon for the rice is too small. There's a larger one in June's second drawer. I found it. Darnell used it for ice. Then wash it. The sink is full. Then move something. His mouth tightened before he caught himself. Right, he said. I'll move something. He carried the spoon away. June had not been exaggerating about the rice. It could have been poured into wall cavities for insulation. I covered mine with gravy and sat beside Evelyn on one of the folding chairs. The chair pinched the back of my leg. You bought the gray ones, I called to Adrian. He looked over from the buffet. What? Nothing. Evelyn leaned toward me. That nearly killed you, didn't it? I'm growing. You look uncomfortable. That's growth. Dinner unfolded in overlapping conversations. Darnell complained about the rice until Adrian offered him the kitchen. Harold asked for seconds. Marlene praised the green beans with such determination that the rest of us became suspicious. When the food was mostly gone, Raymond stood and tapped his fork against his glass. June pointed at him. No speeches. This isn't a speech. You are standing and making noise. Sit down. I only want to say, happy birthday. You said it when you came in. June. Keep it under 2 minutes. Raymond spoke for 6. He described his sister as stubborn, loyal, and older than every tree in the county. June objected to the last comparison, but wiped her eyes when he thanked her for holding the family together. I looked down at my dry rice. Afterward, people carried dishes into the kitchen despite Adrian trying to stop them. The room grew louder. Chairs shifted. Pauline placed her pie in the center of the dining table and stared at it as if force of will might firm the filling. Maybe it needs more time, she said. In what? Darnell asked. A freezer. You're the one who gave me the recipe. I told you fresh lemon juice. You said lemon juice. Fresh is understood. Then you should have understood to say it. June called from the living room. If you two are going to fight, bring the pie where I can see. Adrian handed me a knife. Would you cut it? He asked. No. Why not? Because Pauline made it. Pauline threw up her hands. I don't care who cuts it. I do, Darnell said. I want to see if it moves first. Adrian lowered his voice. Mom, you're good at this. At cutting pie? At making things work. The words landed more gently than he intended. I'm a guest, I said. He looked at the knife, then nodded. All right. He set it down and asked Pauline how she wanted to serve her pie. Pauline stared at him. With bowls, apparently. Darnell laughed so hard he had to brace himself against the wall. Adrian brought bowls. Pauline spooned the loose pie into them, added whipped cream, and passed them around. It tasted much better than it looked. I told her so. She sat across from me, her own bowl untouched. I hate this tension, she said. What tension? This, everybody watching every word. Adrian walking around looking miserable. You sitting there like you're visiting strangers. I am a guest. You were never a guest before. Things change. Because of one little name card? Conversation around us weakened. Pauline either did not notice or had decided the moment had come. I'm not saying he handled it perfectly, she continued, but families make seating mistakes. He was trying to keep peace, and you left so everybody would know you were offended. I felt every head turn while pretending not to turn. Darnell set down his bowl. Pauline, June warned. No, I want to understand. Lorraine didn't answer my messages. She wouldn't help with the pie. She's making Adrian do everything alone because she misunderstood one seating arrangement. I looked at Adrian. He stood in the kitchen doorway holding a trash bag. For a moment, nobody moved. Then he walked into the dining room. She didn't misunderstand, he said. Pauline frowned. Adrian, I'm defending you. I know. He placed the trash bag on the floor. I moved her card, he said. It wasn't an accident. Dad said he wanted Marlene to feel accepted, and I decided Mom shouldn't sit at the family table. Raymond sat forward. I didn't tell you to move her. I know. You didn't. The room went still. Adrian looked at his father, not me. I let Mom think you asked because I didn't want to admit it was my choice. Then I told everybody she needed space because it was easier than saying she had a reason to be angry. Pauline's face changed. You said she was sensitive because of the divorce. I was wrong. You said she left because she had a headache. She left because I embarrassed her. No one applauded. No one told him he was brave. Harold studied the floor. Evelyn folded her napkin. Morris became interested in the curtain rod. Raymond's voice was quiet. You're making it sound like I had nothing to do with this. I'm saying you didn't ask me to move her. But I told you. You told me Marlene was nervous. I made the rest of the decision. Marlene looked at him in surprise. Adrian finally turned toward me. I did it because I wanted Dad to see me running the Bell reunion with him and Marlene at the center. Mom's name was Price, and her being there reminded everyone the family didn't look the way I wanted it to look. The honesty cut more deeply than the excuses had. I treated her like she could be moved because I knew she would still love me, he said. That was the whole reason. June cleared her throat. Good, she said. Now that everybody is properly uncomfortable, someone bring me my terrible pie. The room breathed again. Pauline looked at me. Lorraine, I'm sorry. I nodded, because I did not know what else to do. Adrian picked up the trash bag and returned to the kitchen. I waited a minute before following him. He stood at the sink, scraping plates into the bag. His hands shook slightly. You didn't have to do that tonight, I said. Yes, I did. It was June's birthday. She's the one who told Pauline to ask you about the recipe. I looked toward the living room. June lifted her wine glass at me. That woman is dangerous, I said. Adrian almost smiled. Then his face folded back into seriousness. I'm sorry I moved you, he said. I'm sorry I used Dad as cover. I'm sorry I made everyone think you were overreacting, and I'm sorry I came to your house the next day expecting you to feed me like nothing happened. The apology was specific. It was also not enough. This isn't fixed, I said. I know. Remorse is not the same as repair. What does repair look like? I don't know yet. He nodded. And I'm not going to design it for you, I said. I know that too. He picked up another plate and scraped dry rice into the trash. For once, neither of us asked the other person to make the moment easier. June's terrible pie improved as the evening went on. That may have been the wine. People returned to their conversations, but nobody spoke with the same careless volume. Truth had entered the room and taken a chair. Even when no one addressed it, they had to move around it. Pauline found me while I was wrapping June's flowers in damp paper for the night. I owe you an apology, she said. You already apologized. I did it in front of everybody. That was for me. I looked at her. She twisted one of her rings. I knew you didn't misunderstand. Then why did you say I did? Because Adrian sounded so upset, and you wouldn't explain yourself. I thought you were making him suffer. He made a decision. I know that now. You knew he moved the card. I didn't know why. You knew where he moved it. Pauline's mouth tightened. You're not making this easy. No. She nodded slowly. I suppose that's the point. I pushed the vase farther onto June's counter. Pauline lowered her voice. When you didn't give me the recipe, I got mad because I thought you were punishing me for something Adrian did. But I think I was really mad because I expected you to help anyway. That was a better apology than the first one. I could have given you the recipe, I said. You could have. The pie might still have been terrible. The bottled juice was a mistake. Darnell told you fresh, he mumbles. He shouted it twice. We looked at one another. Then Pauline smiled. Will you give me the recipe now? No. Her smile vanished. Inez gave Darnell the recipe, I said. Learn it from him. Darnell can barely boil water. Then both of you may improve. She stared at me for a moment, then laughed. All right, she said. That's fair. Across the room, Raymond stood near the front door with his jacket over one arm. He had not spoken to Adrian since the dining room. Marlene said goodbye to June, then waited beside him. When I stepped onto the porch for air, Raymond followed. You all right? He asked. I'm fine. That wasn't easy to hear. For whom? He looked toward the street. He made it sound like I've been some kind of impossible father. He said you laughed when he volunteered to host. I didn't laugh at him. He thought you did. I laughed because none of us knew how much work it was. I knew. That's not what I meant. You keep having that problem. He leaned against the porch rail. The wood creaked beneath his weight. I told him the reunion turned out well, Raymond said. I was proud of him. Did you tell him you were proud? I said it was better than I expected. That is not the same sentence. It means the same thing. No, Raymond. It means you expected him to fail and were pleasantly surprised. He rubbed the bridge of his nose. Everything I say gets turned into evidence. Maybe because you never say the simple thing. I'm proud of him. Tell him. He's angry with me. Tell him while he's angry. Raymond looked through the screen door. Adrian was kneeling beside June's new chair, adjusting something underneath it while she issued instructions. I didn't ask him to move you, Raymond said. I know, but I didn't stop it either. No, I saw the sign. I knew it was wrong. Yes. He looked at me then. You could let me get there before answering. I spent 38 years waiting for you to get places. That's unfair. It's accurate. His mouth pulled to one side. Marlene says the same thing. I like her more every day. She's not thrilled with me either. Then it must be difficult having two unreasonable women independently reach the same conclusion. He laughed despite himself. The screen door opened and Marlene stepped onto the porch. Are you ready? She asked him. We're talking. You've had 6 years. That's what I said, I told her. Raymond looked between us. This is getting dangerous. Marlene touched my arm. Good night, Lorraine. Good night. She and Raymond walked to their car. He opened the passenger door for her, then stood beside it, speaking. I could not hear the words. Marlene waited, arms folded, until he finished. Whatever he said, she made him say more. I went back inside. Adrian had cleared nearly every plate and stacked the rented chairs by the wall. He did not ask me to help. When I picked up 2 glasses from the side table, he said, You can leave those. I'm walking toward the kitchen. You're still a guest. The word had no edge this time. I set the glasses in the sink and collected my purse. June objected to my leaving before the last person. You are the last person, I told her. Darnell's still here. He's asleep in the new chair. He's testing it. Darnell opened one eye. It's a good chair. Adrian walked me to my car. At the curb, he placed his hands in his pockets. Thank you for coming. June is my friend. I know. You did a good job. He blinked. With what? Tonight. The rice was awful. You ordered too much and it was awful. Both can be true. He laughed quietly. I opened my car door. Mom? I waited. Dad told me he was proud of me. That was fast. He also said I made him sound like a jackass. That sounds more natural. He said both things in the same conversation. Growth is rarely graceful. Adrian looked toward June's house. I'm going to stay until everybody leaves. Good. He did not ask when he would see me again. The next morning, he sent a message. Aunt June is fine. Chairs returned, kitchen cleaned. Darnell ate the rest of the pie. I wrote, of course he did. No question followed. That became the first change I trusted. Adrian stopped using every contact as an opening to request something. He told me when June's appointment changed, but he did not ask me to call the office. He sent me a photograph of the new rail Morris had installed beside her back steps, then thanked Morris himself. He called Pauline and Harold. I knew because they told me. He admitted he lied about your headache, Harold said. I did have one. After you left. Details matter. He sounded ashamed. I'm glad he called you. Pauline said Adrian had apologized for letting her defend a false version of events. She seemed offended that he described her defense as something he had let her do. I make my own decisions, she said. You do. He could have told me the truth. He could have. I also could have asked you. You could have. You're enjoying this. A little. Not everyone reconsidered. Cousin Gerald told Darnell that I had still made too much of a seating arrangement. Darnell repeated this to Adrian while they were collecting chairs from June's garage. According to Darnell, Adrian said, it mattered because I meant it to matter. I wanted people to see where I put her. Gerald replied that older women became sensitive about being replaced. Adrian asked whether older men became foolish about being irrelevant. Darnell called me immediately. He said foolish, Darnell reported. I would have used a stronger word. You usually do. Gerald left mad. Why are you telling me? Because your son didn't know I was listening. That became the second change I trusted. The Sunday after June's birthday, Adrian did not appear. At 2 in the afternoon, he texted, would you be willing to have coffee this week? I studied the wording. Not can I come over? Not, are you still mad? Not a grocery bag held like a peace offering. Wednesday at 2, I replied. He arrived at 1:58 and knocked. I opened the door before he could knock a second time. He held a paper bag, coffee cake. I thought we were having coffee. It goes with it. Did you make it? No. Then come in. He glanced at the brass key on the side table but said nothing. I made coffee. He carried the cups to the dining table and sat in a chair he had rarely used before. On Sundays, he always took the seat facing the kitchen so I could refill his plate without walking around him. That day, he sat beside me. For the first 10 minutes, we discussed June, then the weather, then the coffee cake, which had too much cinnamon according to me and not enough according to Adrian. Finally, he said, I keep thinking about what you said. You'll need to be more specific. That I used your relationship because I thought it was safe. I ran my thumb along the handle of my cup. I knew Dad's love wasn't guaranteed, he said, or his approval. Whatever you want to call it. I'm sorry. I'm not saying that so you'll feel sorry for me. You can tell me not to feel responsible. You cannot tell me not to feel sorry. He looked down. I knew you would still be there after the reunion, he said. I didn't even consider that you might not be. I am still here. Not the same way. No. He nodded as if he had expected that answer. I used to think you made Dad look worse than he was after the divorce, he said. Not by saying anything, by staying close to everybody. You were still the person they called, and he looked like the one who left. He was the one who left. I know. You wanted me to disappear enough for his decision to look cleaner. I think I did. The honesty was ugly. That made it useful. He reached for his cup, then stopped. I don't know how to repair it, he said. Neither do I. Does that mean I keep coming for coffee? It means you ask. So he did, not every week, not according to a schedule that would let either of us pretend the old arrangement had returned. Sometimes I said yes. Once I said no because Denise and I had tickets to a comedy show. Adrian did not ask me to change the date. By late October, Denise had claimed Thanksgiving. My apartment is too small, she said. Then why did you claim it? I claimed the holiday, not the location. She sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad, making a menu that included 6 side dishes and no vegetable that remained recognizable. You mean you want to use my house? I mean, we should host together. I looked around the kitchen. The idea of cooking again felt different when nobody assumed I would. Fine, I said, but no turkey for 20 people. We know 12. I am not inviting 12. Denise wrote 6 at the top of the page. Should Adrian be one? I opened the silverware drawer, closed it, then opened it again. Do you want him here? She asked. That is my question. No. Your usual question is whether he expects to be here. I turned toward her. Denise set down her pen. Invite him if you want him, she said. Not because he's your son, not because it's Thursday, not because he'll be hungry. I thought about Adrian sitting beside me for coffee, asking before he came, leaving without taking leftovers unless I offered. Then I picked up my phone. I'm having Thanksgiving with Denise, I wrote. You're invited as a guest, if you'd like to come. His answer arrived a minute later. I'd like that. What should I bring? I smiled before I could stop myself. Ask Denise, I wrote. She's in charge. Denise took that authority seriously. She called Adrian and assigned him green beans, 2 bottles of wine and ice. Why ice? I asked. Men should always be given one task they cannot reinterpret. He can reinterpret water? He once brought a bag of frozen peas when I asked for something cold to put on my ankle. That was 20 years ago. My ankle remembers. Adrian texted me the morning before Thanksgiving. What time should I come? Dinner is at 4. I can come early to help if you want. I looked at Denise, who was seated at my kitchen table snapping celery into pieces with unnecessary violence. He asked before coming early, I said. She held out her hand for my phone, read the message, and nodded. Reward the behavior. What does that mean? Say yes if you want help. I don't know what needs doing yet, then say no. I might need help tomorrow. Then decide tomorrow. You're making this exhausting. Thinking usually is when you're new to it. I took my phone back. Come at 2, I wrote. We'll probably need help then. His reply was a thumbs up. The royal thumb, I said. Denise tossed a piece of celery into the bowl. Progress does not fix personality. By 2 o'clock on Thanksgiving, my kitchen had reached a manageable level of disaster. Denise was mashing potatoes with the concentration of a person settling a personal score. A turkey roasted in the oven, one I had chosen despite my claim that I would not make one. June had called twice to ask whether she should bring serving spoons, then arrived with no serving spoons and a bottle of sparkling cider nobody remembered requesting. Evelyn and Morris were coming at 3:30. Denise had invited a woman named Marcy from her building, but Marcy canceled after deciding to spend the day with an old boyfriend she described as a mistake with good hair. That left 6 of us. 6 was enough. At 1:55, Adrian knocked. He waited. I wiped my hands and opened the door. He stood on the porch with a casserole dish, 2 bottles of wine, and a bag of ice balanced against his chest. You're early, I said. 5 minutes. You sound like me. I've been afraid of that for years. I stepped aside. He carried everything into the kitchen and greeted Denise, who immediately inspected the green beans. They have bacon, she said. You told me to make them taste good. I said, bring green beans. Those are green beans. They're under there somewhere, I said. Adrian smiled but did not ask whether I had forgiven him. That had become our new form of kindness. He put the wine on the counter, then opened the freezer. Where do you want the ice? In the sink, Denise said. He stared at her. She waited 3 full seconds before laughing. Freezer. I knew that. No, you didn't. June called from the living room. Who brought ice? Adrian, I called back. I told him to bring ice. No, Denise did. I thought about it. Adrian shook his head and removed his coat. For the next hour, he did what we asked. He peeled apples, carried chairs, and washed the pans Denise abandoned in the sink. When he noticed the dining table had 6 places, he did not ask where he should sit. I had arranged the chairs without cards. June took one end because she would have objected otherwise. Denise sat at the other, claiming authority as co-host. Evelyn and Morris sat together. Adrian ended up between Morris and me. No center, no edge. Just a table small enough that everyone had to pass the gravy. Before we ate, June insisted on saying, "Grace." "I thought you said no speeches," Adrian said. "That was my birthday. God gets Thanksgiving." Her prayer lasted nearly as long as Raymond's speech. She thanked God for the food, the people at the table, those we missed, and the sense to stop confusing tradition with obligation. Denise opened one eye and looked at me. I kept mine closed. When June finished, Adrian carved the turkey. I had always done it after Raymond left, though nobody had formally assigned me the job. The knife looked awkward in Adrian's hand. "You're cutting against the grain," I said. Denise kicked me beneath the table. I was answering a question. He didn't ask one. Adrian turned a slice over. "Am I cutting it wrong?" "Yes." "No," Denise said at the same time. We looked at one another. Morris held out his plate. "I'll eat evidence from either side." Adrian adjusted the knife. His next slice came away cleaner. "I didn't need help," he said. "I know, but it helped. I know that too." We ate. The green beans were excellent, though Denise refused to admit it until she had taken seconds. Morris poured gravy over everything, including the cranberry sauce. Evelyn told us about a man in their building who practiced the trumpet only when his wife left for work. June complained that Pauline had made Inez's pie again and still used bottled lemon juice. "Why are you eating it?" I asked. "To identify the problem." "You identified it last time. I'm checking for consistency." Adrian laughed. The sound no longer made me grab for hope. That was another change. I could enjoy one good moment without forcing it to promise me the next. Halfway through dinner, his phone buzzed. He read the screen but did not answer. "Everything all right?" I asked. "It's Dad. Answer if you need to. He knows I'm here." June looked up. "He's not eating with Marlene?" "They had lunch at her sister's. Dad wants me to stop by tonight. Are you going?" I asked. "I told him I'd call tomorrow." June nodded with satisfaction. "Good." Adrian smiled. "You only say that because you're mad at him. I contain multitudes. You contain grudges. Those too." He put the phone away. I wondered whether Raymond had expected Adrian to choose him once the truth came out. Families had a way of treating consequences like competitions. If Adrian grew closer to me, someone assumed he had moved farther from his father. I had participated in that arithmetic after the divorce, even when I pretended not to. "Call him before it gets too late," I said. Adrian glanced at me. "You sure? I'm not in charge of your relationship with your father." "No," he said. "You're not." There was no accusation in it, only recognition. After dinner, June and Evelyn went to the living room. Morris joined them after discovering that Denise expected anyone who remained in the kitchen to work. Adrian washed dishes. I dried. Denise packaged leftovers behind us, narrating every container. Turkey and potatoes for June, turkey and beans for Evelyn and Morris, no cranberry sauce for Morris because he cannot be trusted with it. "I ate it," Morris called from the living room. "That's the problem." Adrian handed me a plate. "You can use the dishwasher," I said. "It's full. You loaded it?" Denise did. "Wrong," Denise said. I began. The machine resisted. I opened the dishwasher. Bowls faced upward. A wooden cutting board blocked the spinning arm. 3 wine glasses had been placed over the silverware basket like hats. "You cannot keep living this way," I told my sister. "My way has fewer rules. Your way has food particles." Adrian laughed again and began unloading it. We rearranged everything. He did not leave when the work became dull. He did not stand in the kitchen waiting to be congratulated for washing his own plate. When the counters were clean, he carried the leftovers to everyone's cars. Then he returned for his coat. "I'm going to head out," he said. "You don't want coffee?" He looked surprised. "I can stay." That wasn't what I asked. He smiled. "No, thank you." I told Dad I'd call. I wrapped 2 slices of turkey and a spoonful of potatoes in a container. "You don't have to give me food." "I know." He accepted it. At the front door, he hugged me. Not long enough to become a statement. "Thank you for inviting me," he said. "Thank Denise. She claimed the holiday. I already did. He left without asking about Sunday. The brass key remained on the side table. After everyone was gone, Denise and I sat at the dining table with the remains of the wine. The table looked tired. Crumbs covered the cloth. One chair had gravy on the seat, which we both blamed on Morris. "That went well," Denise said. "It did. You hate that, I do not. You were waiting all day for something to go wrong so you wouldn't have to decide how to feel if it didn't. You really should stop reading napkins." She leaned back. "Are you going to give him the key?" "I don't know." "He looked at it when he came in." "I saw." "Why do you keep it there?" "It's a key. You have a drawer full of keys. Those have labels. Label this one." I picked up my wine glass. "You've become very invested in my side table. It's the first thing anybody sees when they walk in. Most people see the lamp. Most people aren't avoiding the key." I looked toward the living room. From the table, I could see the small brass shape beside the lamp. "I'm not ready," I said, then put it in the drawer. "Why?" "Because leaving it there makes every visit a test neither of you agreed to take." I considered arguing. Instead, I stood, carried the key into the kitchen, and placed it in the drawer beside the spare batteries. Denise smiled into her wine. "That is not forgiveness," I told her. "I didn't say it was. It does not mean he gets it back." "I know. It means I was tired of looking at it." Lorraine. "What? You don't have to explain every decision until it sounds like it wasn't one." I closed the drawer. "Help me remove this tablecloth," I said. "That's your response?" "That is my response." She stood and took the opposite end. We lifted the cloth together, crumbs rolling toward the center. I waited for Denise to make another observation. For once, she kept it to herself. Winter settled into a quieter rhythm. Adrian and I had coffee when one of us asked. Sometimes we went 2 weeks without speaking, then spent an hour arguing over a movie June recommended. He called Raymond. He helped Marlene move a cabinet into her sewing room and complained that his father measured the doorway after they got it stuck. He continued helping June, though she tried to turn every errand into an opportunity to reunite us permanently. "Adrian is taking me grocery shopping Saturday," she said one morning. "You could come. I have plans with Denise. You see Denise all the time now. I didn't before. That was her choice." "No," I said. "It wasn't only hers." June went quiet. I had begun noticing how often I defended myself by assigning the whole history to someone else. The habit was not unique to Adrian. "What are you doing with Denise?" she asked. "She wants curtains. Curtains take 20 minutes. You've never shopped with Denise." "That is true." In January, Adrian asked Darnell to teach him Inez's pie. The first attempt did not set. The second tasted like cleaning fluid. He brought the third to coffee in a glass dish covered with foil. I lifted the foil and pressed one finger lightly against the filling. "It moved," I said. "Pie is supposed to move, not away from you." He sat across from me at the dining table. "Taste it before you insult it." I cut 2 slices. The filling held. The crust was uneven and there was too much lemon zest, but it tasted close enough to bring Inez's kitchen back for one sudden second. "Well?" Adrian asked. I chewed slowly. "You need less zest." His shoulders fell. "But the filling is right." He smiled. I took another bite. "You learned from Darnell?" "Mostly." Pauline came too. That must have been peaceful. She threatened him with a whisk. That is peaceful for Pauline. Adrian looked around the table. "Do you miss Sunday dinners?" he asked. The question was careful, but it was still a question. "Yes," I said. He waited. "So do I," he said. Neither of us offered to bring them back. Not yet. Instead, we finished the pie he had learned to make from someone else. The pie dish was empty when Adrian left. He wrapped it in the same foil, though there was nothing to protect, and carried it to the door. "Darnell says I should make 2 for the reunion," he said. I looked up. He kept his attention on the foil. "Next reunion." I understood. We're probably using Willow Point again. Aunt June says the church hall smells like wet carpet. It does. Pauline thinks we should move it to September because July was too hot. Pauline complained about the heat at a Christmas parade. I told her that. He smiled, then waited for a response I did not give. Nothing is decided, he said. I'm not organizing it, I know. Then why are you telling me? Because I wanted you to know there will be one. June would allow the family to dissolve before she canceled a reunion. She said nearly those exact words. That woman has spent too much time with me. Adrian shifted the dish beneath one arm. You don't have to answer now. You haven't asked anything. I was going to ask if you'll come. And then you decided not to? I decided not to make you answer while I'm standing in your doorway holding pie. That is strangely considerate. I'm trying. He left with the question still in the room. The reunion planning began without me. I knew because June complained about it. Pauline wants chicken again, she said over coffee. You cannot serve the same meat 2 years in a row. You have done it for 32 years. That was your decision. It was your budget. Adrian made a committee. Good. Darnell is in charge of the memorial. Less good. He knows the people. He also believes spelling is a suggestion. Pauline is handling food. Marlene volunteered for desserts. That sounds reasonable. June watched me over the rim of her cup. You don't mean that. I do. You're not even curious. I'm very curious. Curiosity is not authority. That sounds rehearsed. I've had practice. She set down her cup. Adrian won't let anyone ask you for help. He cannot control who asks me questions. He told Pauline if she calls you about food, he'll replace her with Darnell. That is an empty threat. Pauline doesn't think so. The evidence arrived 2 days later when Pauline called. I want you to know I'm not asking for anything, she said before saying hello. Good afternoon. Adrian is behaving like you're under witness protection. He's trying to respect a boundary. You used to make 4 cobblers. I remember. Marlene wants to make berry cobbler. Then you'll have berry cobbler. She uses oats. People survive oats. You don't believe that? No, but I believe I don't have to attend the meeting. Pauline lowered her voice. Are you coming? I haven't decided. You should. Why? Because you belong there. The answer was sincere. That made it harder. Thank you, I said. And because Marlene's cobbler might need supervision. Goodbye, Pauline. The invitation arrived in April. It was cream-colored with a small gold bell printed at the top. Adrian had addressed it by hand. Ms. Lorraine Price. Not Mom, not Lorraine Bell out of habit, not friend of the family, my own name. Inside, the invitation gave the date, time, and Willow Point address. At the bottom, beneath the request to respond, Adrian had written one sentence. No task, no dish. I just like you there. I placed the card on my mantel and spent 3 days pretending not to look at it. Denise noticed immediately. What's that? An invitation. To what? You can read upside down. She walked over and picked it up. He used your last name. It is customary when addressing mail. He wrote the envelope himself. He has hands. You are determined to make everything meaningless. I am determined not to make stationery emotional. Too late. She returned the invitation to the mantel. Do you want to go? I don't know. You know. You don't like the answer. What do you think the answer is? You want to go, and you don't want anyone to think that means the whole thing is over. I hated how often Denise was right. It encouraged her. The reunion was part of my life for 32 years, I said. Then go. I was humiliated there. Then don't. That is not helpful. Those are the choices. There are consequences. There always are. That's why choices take so long. I sat on the couch. Denise remained by the mantel, studying the old reunion photograph. Raymond's hand still rested on my shoulder inside the frame. I had considered replacing the picture after the reunion, but removing it felt too much like agreeing that the family in it no longer counted. If I go, I said, people will assume I'm coming back. Are you? No. Then they'll adjust. People don't adjust. They make comments. You survived one of my pork chops. You can survive comments. That is true. She sat beside me. "We have concert tickets that night," she said. "I remember. You could attend the reunion for an hour and leave. June will complain. June complains when a restaurant gives her too much ice. She says it dilutes the drink. She drinks water." "I know." Denise leaned back. "Your car. Your purse. No cobbler. 1 hour. You've thought about this." "I think about many things, mostly other people's business. It's where the interesting material is." I picked up the invitation. At the bottom of the card, my son's handwriting slanted slightly upward, the same way the Togetherness banner had dipped. Adrian could never make a line stay level. I replied, "Yes." He called rather than texting. "You're coming?" "For 1 hour." "Okay. I'm not bringing food." "Okay. I'm not arriving early." "Okay. I'm leaving for a concert with Denise." "What concert?" "That is not relevant." "No, I just didn't know you went to concerts. You don't know everything I do. I'm learning that." There was no hurt performance in his voice, just a fact accepted. "I'm glad you're coming," he said. "I know I won't ask you to do anything. I know that, too. If someone else asks, you can say no. I'm also learning." He laughed softly. Then his voice became careful. "There won't be a center table this time." I closed my eyes. "This is not about getting a better seat. I know. I wanted you to know anyway. What are the tables called?" "They aren't called anything. No signs, no categories. Because of me, because they were stupid. They were your idea. I have had several stupid ideas. At least 4. Probably more. I was being kind." He laughed again. "Where do you want to sit?" he asked. "I'll decide when I get there." "Okay." That was the first plan for the reunion that felt like mine. As summer approached, the family became busier around me. June attended committee meetings and returned with reports I did not request. Raymond volunteered to manage parking, a task everyone agreed suited a man who enjoyed pointing at spaces. Marlene tested desserts. Pauline made enough phone calls to qualify as a public nuisance. Adrian kept his word. He did not ask for the extension cords. He bought his own. He did not ask for the easels. Harold had 2 in his garage. When he needed dates for the memorial board, he called the relatives closest to each person instead of treating my memory like an archive he could open at will. The board took longer. It also contained stories I had never heard. Darnell misspelled remembrance on the program. They printed 76 copies before anyone noticed. June brought one to my house and set it on the kitchen table. "Say nothing," she ordered. "I haven't spoken. Your face spoke. Remembrance has 1 M in the middle. Darnell says language evolves." Not that quickly. I laughed until my eyes watered. The old pleasure came back without permission. Not the pleasure of being necessary. The pleasure of knowing these people well enough to predict the exact form of their foolishness. June smiled at me. "You miss us," she said. "I never stopped. You stopped acting like it." "No, I stopped doing all the work." Her smile faded into something thoughtful. "I let you," she said. "You worked too. Not at the end. After my hands got bad, I kept calling it ours while you carried it. You did what you could. I did what you allowed." That sounds like Denise. She called me. I stared at her. "Why?" "To discuss the concert. You have never met Denise without me. We had lunch." "When?" "Tuesday." "What did you talk about?" "You. Of course." June picked up the misspelled program and tapped it against the table. "You didn't just disappear into our family," she said. "We encouraged it. You made things easier, so we kept letting you. I loved doing it." "I know. That's why none of us asked whether you wanted to stop." I reached across and covered her hand. "I should have stopped before I needed to be humiliated into it," I said. "Maybe." That was not agreement I was seeking. At 70, I no longer wait to be asked. The morning of the reunion, I woke at 5:30. My body remembered the schedule even if I had rejected it. By 6, I was standing in the kitchen drinking coffee and imagining everything that might be going wrong at Willow Point. The rental company could have brought the wrong tables. The coffee urn might refuse to heat. Someone would forget ice. I opened the pantry. 4 glass baking dishes sat stacked on the lower shelf. I had enough peaches in the freezer, flour in the canister, brown sugar beside it. For several minutes, I stood there calculating time. If I started immediately, I could make 2 cobblers, perhaps 3. They would still be warm when I arrived. Nobody had asked, which meant everyone would be surprised, grateful, relieved. I closed the pantry. At 11:45, I dressed in the green blouse June had requested for her birthday. I picked up my purse, my car keys, and the concert tickets Denise had trusted me not to lose. Then I drove to Willow Point Lodge with an empty back seat. Raymond stood at the entrance to the parking lot wearing a yellow safety vest and holding an orange flag. He looked ridiculous. He also looked delighted with himself. He waved me toward a row near the lodge, then recognized my car and changed direction so abruptly that the driver behind me leaned on the horn. "Keep moving," Raymond shouted at him. The man raised both hands through his windshield. Raymond directed me into a space beneath a tree. When I lowered my window, he rested one hand on the roof. "You're late." "It's 12:58. People came early." "Bell people come early to inspect." He glanced through my windows. "Where's your food?" "At home." "You didn't bring cobbler?" "No." "Did Adrian know?" "He invited me, not my peaches." Raymond looked toward the lodge as if considering whether this information required emergency action. "Marlene made berry cobbler," he said. "With oats." His eyebrows rose. "How did you know?" "Pauline has a telephone." A car approached behind me. Raymond straightened and lifted his flag. "We'll talk inside. I'm leaving in an hour." "Why?" "I have a concert." "With who?" "Denise." Raymond's expression changed. Not disapproval exactly. Surprised that my life had developed events for which he had not received a program. "What concert?" "You and Adrian need new questions." The driver behind me tapped his horn. Raymond pointed his flag toward an open space and shouted, "I see you." I rolled up my window. For a moment, I remained in the car with the engine off. Through the windshield, I could see the wide porch where the family photograph had been taken the year before. A bench sat beneath the windows. The lake flashed between the trees, muddy at its edges and bright in the distance. I checked my purse. Phone, wallet, lipstick, concert tickets. Nothing anyone needed. When I entered the lodge, the first thing I noticed was the absence of signs. Round tables filled the main room, but none were marked. Family or extended family or friends. There was no long center table. The tables were identical except for their flowers, which varied according to whoever had arranged them. Some jars held cedar branches, others contained daisies, roses, or what looked suspiciously like weeds from June's yard. A small table near the entrance held name tags. Mine read Lorraine Price. Nothing more. I peeled off the backing and pressed it to my blouse. Darnell hurried over carrying a stack of programs. "You came." "So people keep saying." He hugged me, crushing the programs between us. "I fixed the spelling," he said. I took one. Remembrance appeared on the cover with the correct number of letters. It had been printed on a white strip and glued over the mistake. You can see the old word underneath. That is history. That is poor planning. History is mostly poor planning. He handed me 2 more programs. I only need 1. In case the strip falls off, I'm not repairing these. His hand froze. Then he smiled. Right. I knew that. He took them back. Adrian stood near the food table speaking to one of the rental employees. He wore a dark green shirt this year, untucked at the waist, with no clipboard in sight. When he saw me, he finished the conversation rather than abandoning it, then walked across the room. "You made it," he said. "IRSVPD, I know." His eyes moved toward the entrance, perhaps looking for whatever I had brought. I waited. He looked back at me. "You look nice." "June chose the blouse 8 months ago. She'll take credit. She has already taken credit for the weather." Adrian smiled. "Do you want me to show you where Aunt June is?" "I can find her." "Right." He glanced around the room. Every table had open chairs. "Where would you like to sit?" he asked. I took my time looking. June sat at a table near the windows with Evelyn and Morris. Marlene was beside her. There were 2 empty chairs, one facing the lake and one facing the room. "There," I said. Adrian nodded. "Okay." He did not move a card. He did not warn anyone. He did not announce that the arrangement had been approved. He simply walked with me to the table. June looked at my blouse and clapped once. "Finally, I wore it to stop you discussing it. You look beautiful." "She looks pale," Marlene said. June turned toward her in betrayal. Marlene smiled at me. "I've been waiting months to do that." I sat beside her. Evelyn leaned across the table. "We saved you a chair, thank you." Morris pointed at the second empty one. "Harold's getting coffee. He may have fallen in." "He's talking to Pauline," June said. Same result. Adrian remained behind my chair. "The program starts in 10 minutes, he said. "Food after remembrance. Picture before dessert if people cooperate." "They won't," June said. "I know. You should call the taller people first. I have a plan. That worries me." Adrian looked at me, maybe expecting advice. I offered none. After a second, he smiled and walked away. June watched him go. "He's been here since 7, she said. "Of course he has. He bought the extension cords." I heard. "He brought 6. You need 2. He said extra cords are useful. He is becoming me." "Poor man," Marlene said. Harold returned carrying 1 cup of coffee and 3 pieces of pound cake wrapped in napkins. "Emergency supplies," he explained. "Food hasn't been served," I said. "That's why it's an emergency." He took the last chair. From where I sat, I could see the memorial board clearly. It was less orderly than mine would have been. Some photographs overlapped. Dates were written in different hands. Beneath Inez's photograph, Darnell had added a small drawing of a chess piece and a lemon. It was crooked. It was also lovely. The remembrance began with feedback from the microphone. Adrian adjusted a cable. Nothing changed. He replaced the microphone with another one, and the squeal stopped. No one called my name. Darnell led the ceremony. He mispronounced a cousin's middle name, corrected himself, and invited the man's former partner to share a story. Pauline spoke about Inez and admitted she had finally learned the pie. Raymond talked about Uncle Horace's station wagon. Marlene read the names of 2 relatives she had never met, carefully and correctly. When it ended, Adrian did not thank a planning committee as if he were the only member. He thanked Pauline for the food, Marlene for desserts, Harold for the easels, Darnell for the memorial, Raymond for parking, and June for refusing to let them cancel when the air conditioning repair nearly doubled the lodge fee. Then he looked toward my table. "My mother taught us how to do this for 32 years, he said. "We didn't always notice we were being taught." A few people turned toward me. I did not want applause. None came. June reached beneath the table and squeezed my hand. People lined up for food without table categories. That led to immediate disorder. Pauline accused Darnell of cutting in. Morris claimed his low blood sugar justified passing 3 people, though Evelyn said he had eaten 2 pieces of pound cake. Raymond abandoned the parking lot to secure chicken before it ran out, leaving 2 arriving cars to negotiate with each other. The reunion survived. I stayed seated until the line shortened. Marlene remained beside me. "I nearly stayed home," she said. "Why?" "I thought people might blame me. Some probably do." "Thank you. You asked." She smoothed one edge of her napkin. "Raymond said this year would be easier. Raymond believes time performs labor. He also said nobody was upset with me. That means somebody is." She laughed. Then she looked toward Adrian, who was helping Pauline carry a tray. "I didn't understand what he did to me last year," she said. "He gave you the family seat. He made my belonging depend on your removal." I turned toward her. She continued before I could answer. "For months, I thought if you came back, I would be pushed out again. Not because you ever treated me that way, because that was the arrangement he created. Adrian wanted things to look settled. They didn't. No, it humiliated you, but it made me feel like a substitute everybody was being ordered to accept. June leaned across Marlene. It made me feel like my opinion did not matter at my own reunion. Marlene looked at her. You never said that. I'm saying it now. You threatened Adrian with your cane. That was about the microphone. You threatened him twice. The second time was seating. Evelyn nodded. I saw. June sat back with satisfaction. I looked around our table. My former husband's sister, his current wife, June's old neighbors, Raymond's former co-worker, me. Last year, Adrian would have needed 3 different signs to explain us. This table would have confused him, I said. It still might, Marlene replied. Adrian approached carrying 2 plates. What might confuse me? All of us sitting together, June said. He put 1 plate in front of her and the other in front of me. I think that's the point. I looked down. He had given me chicken, potato salad, green beans, and 1 dinner roll. No onions. You remembered, I said. He shrugged. I was taught. He returned to the food line before I could make more of it. The meal was imperfect. The chicken ran out, then reappeared when Pauline discovered a tray in the warming cabinet. The coffee was weak. Marlene's berry cobbler contained oats and tasted surprisingly good, though I planned to deny that if asked. Nobody could find the ice Adrian had purchased until someone discovered all 6 bags melting in a cooler outside the kitchen. For the photograph, Adrian asked everyone to gather on the porch. I checked the time. I had 12 minutes left. June stood beside the bench, preparing to direct traffic. Adrian arrived before she could. Sit wherever you're comfortable, he told her. I'm comfortable in the center. Then sit in the center. She did. People arranged themselves around her. Taller relatives moved to the back without being ordered. Darnell crouched in front until Pauline told him his shirt was riding up. Harold stood beside Morris. Marlene took a place near Raymond. I remained near the edge. Adrian approached. You staying for the picture? He asked. Yes. He nodded, then moved toward an open space near the center. Halfway there, he stopped. He returned and stood beside me. You don't have to do that, I said. I know, you're hosting. You should stand where people can see you. They can see me here. His shoulder touched mine. The photographer lifted the camera. Before he could take the picture, Raymond called, Adrian, come closer to the middle. Adrian looked at his father. I'm good, he said. Raymond opened his mouth, then closed it. Marlene took his arm. The photographer asked everyone to look forward. The camera flashed. No open space. No rearranged story. Just a large group of adults trying to face the same direction for 1 second. Afterward, people returned inside for dessert. I found my purse and hugged June. You haven't had cobbler, she objected. I had lunch. You're leaving before dessert again. This time I have somewhere to go. You always had somewhere to go. You just never went. I looked at her. She kissed my cheek. Call me tomorrow. I always call you. I know. Marlene hugged me too. Your cobbler was good, I whispered. She pulled back. Even with oats? I did not say that. I'm telling Pauline I'll deny it. Harold asked if I needed someone to walk me out. I told him I remained capable of navigating a parking lot. Adrian followed me anyway. Outside, late afternoon light lay across the lake. The reunion noise softened when the lodge door closed behind us. Raymond's orange flag leaned against the porch rail, his authority abandoned for dessert. At my car, Adrian placed his hands in his pockets. You stayed longer than an hour, he said. I checked my watch. 8 minutes. I won't charge you. I appreciate that. Did you have an okay time? Yes. He looked relieved, but tried not to. The picture should be ready next week, he said. Send it to me. I will. Neither of us spoke for a moment. From inside the lodge came a burst of laughter, followed by Pauline shouting something about serving spoons. Adrian looked toward the door. You should go back, I said. I wanted to make sure you got to your car. I'm 68 now. I can still find it. I know. He smiled. I miss Sunday dinners, he said. The words no longer sounded like a request disguised as a memory. So do I. I'm not asking to start them again. I know. Maybe coffee this week? I'll call you. He nodded. I kissed his cheek. As I opened the car door, he said, Mom? I looked back. I'm glad you came. I am too. That was all. He did not ask whether everything was healed. He did not ask me to forgive him before I left. He did not promise that no one would ever move me again. He stepped away from the car and waited while I started the engine. The concert tickets lay on the passenger seat. My back seat was empty. No pans, no extension cords, no easels, nothing waiting to be carried inside. In the rearview mirror, Adrian stood beneath the trees until I backed out. Then he lifted one hand and returned to the lodge. I called Denise through the car speaker. You're late, she said. 8 minutes. Did they make you work? No. Did you bring cobbler? No. Did you leave before dessert? Yes. She laughed. I'm proud of you. Don't be dramatic. Was it awful? I looked once more at the lodge, shrinking behind me. No, I said. It was different. That sounds suspiciously healthy. I can still turn around. You won't. She was right. I drove toward the concert with my sister waiting for me, my son returning to the family gathering he had learned to carry, and nobody in my car asking what I had brought.